A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio. A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Tired of the everyday routine? Ever dream of a life of romantic adventure? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape. Escape, designed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight, we escape to a train headed for Calcutta and an exciting tale of the most sought-after emerald in the world, as Richard Sale tells it in his famous story, Figure a Dame.
You do it. You figure a dame. Take this Mrs. Arthur Bankner, whose body I'm hired to guard. A widow woman who wanted a piece of green ice so bad she came halfway across the world to this Raj Johor, this whistle stop in the middle of India. And then to the winter palace of a character named Samurai Dal. Him and his English jodhpur, his jeweled silk turban, his eyes like hard pennies. Him I didn't like.
The star of Kilimanjaro. It has finally brought you to me. What, Mrs. Bankner?
Oh, yes, Samurai Dal. Is that how I call you, or is it Mr. Dal?
However you call me, madame, will be satisfactory when you pay me the $150,000 we agreed upon. American dollars.
Give him the money, Joe. I can't wait any longer. Oh, I think I've lived my life for this moment.
First, we look at the emerald, huh, Mrs. B?
But Mr. Dal wouldn't... Oh, Joe, it's not done that way. This is India. Different customs, different manners.
How true, Mrs. Bankner.
First, we look at it. An old Brooklyn custom. Huh, Sam?
Of course.
Samurai Dal.
The emerald. The star of Kilimanjaro. Fetch it, girl.
At once, Samurai Dal.
Goes good with you, huh, Sam? Dancing girls with bells on their toes?
It's only adequate. I neglected to ask you this, Mrs. Bankner. Forgive me, but just who is this creature?
Joe? Oh, he's not a creature, Mr. Dal. He's... well, for one thing, he's a detective for the Magnum Insurance Company.
That explains a great deal.
You see, Mr. Dal, Joe, Mr. Harriman here, recovered some jewelry I lost in Paris. Oh, I was so impressed with him. I mean with how efficient he was. And
she means she persuaded Magnum to let me come along on this little buying trip for protection. Magnum thought it was a good idea, too. Now you know who the creature is. Now everything's gay, huh, Sam?
Samurai Dal.
Thank you. You may go back, girl, to whatever child's game you are playing. I could weep at having to part with this. Here, the star of Kilimanjaro.
Oh, Joe, look at it, look. Oh, all my life, many, many jewels, but, oh, none like this. None.
Yeah. It's something. It'll do.
Oh.
You are satisfied, Joe?
Yeah.
And you, Mrs. Bankner, it satisfies you?
Oh, yes.
Then it remains only for me to be satisfied.
Give him the money, Joe. Give it to him.
Yeah, okay. Okay, here, Sam. You can count it if you want to.
I want to. Oh, exquisite money. Good. Oh, Mrs. Bankner.
Yes.
If by some grave misfortune you should lose the star of Kilimanjaro, or more exactly it be stolen from you, then please to refer the thief to me. I shall be happy to buy it back from him at a good price.
Mrs. B wanted to celebrate, so we went to the town's one hot spot, a Rasa Tal. It was a dive. And the props hadn't changed from Flatbush. Smoke, Oriental cigarette type, bartender, Oriental type, dames, any type. Complete with Lend-Lease jazz band, the joint was a shore-leave paradise with one great big advantage. No local ordinances. You name it, you can have it.
I'll have another swizzle, Joe.
Finish the drink you've got, and we'll see.
Oh, Joe, you don't have to be so solicitous. Oh, I've got the star of Kilimanjaro. I've got it, Joe, and we're celebrating, remember? Come on now, dance with me. Joe. Joe, what are you staring at? Joe.
Her.
Who, Joe?
That girl over there, the one against the bar.
She looks like an American, that one.
Yeah.
She's lovely. I only say that because she is. Now, you've looked at her, Joe. Now look back at me.
You know what? I've seen her before.
In Flatbush.
Here, in India. A couple of times before. I look up, and there she is, leaning against a bar or watching the same rope trick or being a part of the same crowd as me.
She's following you, Joe, to the ends of the earth. And I bet her resistance is getting lower from bar to bar.
Following me, yeah.
I heard you say something about dancing, lady.
Well, no.
They're advancing you from the poop deck, sailor boy. Beat it.
Oh, Joe, at least buy him a drink.
Buy him nothing. Go on, sailor, make an exit while the house is still with you.
I was saying to you, lady, I heard you want to dance. This guy with you ain't made a move.
Now, what would you have done? Tell me.
Me? Me? I'd dance.
Yeah, you would.
What has happened here?
The Jolly Tar, he happened. Get him out of here.
Oh, yes, guys. Amit, Johan, this man on the floor. Out.
You shouldn't have hit him, but... Joe, I liked watching you do it.
And I'm of the same mind. It was a beautiful thing.
Oh, you too, mister? You want to play too?
No, McCoy, no. I know an Irish Red Cross when I see one, so I brought you both drinks. My pleasure.
Why, thank you.
I am not Irish.
You may not know it, son, but you are. You know, someplace on your tree there's an Irishman. Do you mind if I sit down?
Who are you? What's the...
A man like you, son. I can tell it by the turn of your lips. A seeker, you might say. After what now? A woman's smile? And there's that here in India. Fortune? There's that here, too. Things, that's what.
Without the Irish poetry, who are you?
Rafferty. John Rafferty.
We're happy to know you, Mr. Rafferty, even for just this moment. We're leaving now.
Oh, really? Goodbye. Let's stay, Joe.
Sleep. We'll need it. The train to Calcutta leaves early tomorrow.
And so it does. Then this is not goodbye after all. For I'll be on that train myself.
Sleep, I'd said. For the widow with the emerald, maybe, but not for me. I sat on the veranda of the Raj Johor Ritz just outside Mrs. B's room, and I could hear her making happy moans in her sleep. Once I heard a crawling noise. I got up, investigated, and found it was a noise made by something that crawls. Then came the dawn. I hustled Mrs. B and her bags into a Model T cab that took 2 hours to get to the railroad station a mile away. That I'd counted on, so we made the train for Calcutta on time.
Oh, Joe, just think, in a few days, Calcutta. Then the plane, then Paris, and then you leave me.
Yeah, that's how it was laid out, the itinerary. Go on in, I'll be there in a minute.
But aren't you coming with me?
No, Mrs. B, you go find your compartment. I'll bring the bags to you.
Oh, but... Oh, I see. The bar girl. That's who it is, isn't it, Joe? Coming this way.
That's who it is, Mrs. B. You won't want to be here when I talk to her, huh, Mrs. B?
No, but don't talk long, Joe. It's me that's paying you, remember?
So Mrs. B was on her way to her compartment. The star of Kilimanjaro and a little pouch with gold strings around her neck and inside her dress. This was the last lap. If anyone was going to lift the rocket, it had to be done before we got to Calcutta. And then the girl's perfume was inside me.
We've met before, haven't we? Where or when, I don't know, but we've met.
As good a way as any to get to know me. I'm Joe Harriman.
Marion Ryder. Seems we're always in the same places. On the train all the way from Bombay, at the cafe last night, here. Coincidental, isn't it?
Is it? I wouldn't know.
Well, of course it is. Wait, do you mean you've been following me?
A dream like you that makes you hungry inside? It wouldn't be hard.
Like that?
Like that. Traveling for your health, Marion?
No, business.
In this slop hole, something like you, business?
Well, I'm a kind of buying agent for a New York firm. Trinkets. That's it, trinkets.
Emerald trinkets?
Emerald would be lovely. I must find my compartment, Mr. Harriman. Maybe I'll see you again later?
Count on it, Marion. It's a promise I make to myself.
All aboard! All aboard!
I didn't see her again until later. I sat in my own compartment next to Mrs. B's and did a lot of thinking. Important thinking, and I didn't want it mixed up with her perfume. Maybe she was an out-and-out jewel thief, and that bothered me. She was a cinch to get caught if she tried to lift that stone. And you can't make that good time with a girl who's behind bars. I did my thinking like that for a long time. Had a couple of meals in between, and read, and did some more thinking. When I got finished with it, I was looking out of a window and seeing it was a night without moon. A night for company. I walked down to the club car and found what I was looking for. Hello, Miss... Oh, don't be frightened. It's me. That, kind of night out there get you down?
No. I was just toying with my memory. Sit down, Joe.
Oh, thank you. Toy with your memory some more. It wears wonderful on you. And then tell me about it.
All right. Now shall I tell you about it?
Uh-huh.
Out there, Joe, the night, the black hills, the strange little lights that flicker and swirl past you. It's like I wasn't on this train at all, but out there and part of it. Like something I've known and remembered for a long, long time.
Is that all?
That, Joe.
This?
Joe.
Don't say we shouldn't have done it, because we should have.
I know, but what must you think of me? What?
I'll tell you. Because I level with women who level with me. I think you're interested in me.
And
trinkets. Expensive trinkets. Like the star of Kilimanjaro.
I don't understand you.
Mr. Harriman, please, come, hurry. Mrs. Bankner.
What's the matter with her?
She is very upset. I think something is wrong. She says you come right away. She is crying.
Excuse me, Marion. I gotta go to work. Come on, you.
Yes.
Mrs. B, something wrong?
Oh, Joe, I had a nightmare and I woke up. I was so frightened.
No. All right, conductor, thank you. You can go now.
Yes, sir?
I called for you when I woke up, but you weren't there. Oh, Joe. Sit here and put your arms around me. Oh, Joe, hold me tight.
Yeah.
Oh, it's better like this. You close to me like this.
Uh-huh.
Oh, look at me, Joe. What do you see?
You're so helpless I could kiss you.
Try me, Joe.
Yeah.
Joe, you're hurting me. Joe, what? Joe!
Her throat was soft against my hands. Her arms waved around for a little while. The look in her eyes was something I had never seen before. She didn't struggle much. She didn't do anything much. Except not believe it was happening to her. That she was being murdered. Then she quit believing anything. She was dead.
In just a moment, we will continue with Escape. But first, every Wednesday night, Groucho Marx, Bing Crosby, and Burns and Allen in 1, 2, 3 order on most of these same CBS stations. Hear them all tomorrow night on CBS. And now we return you to the second act of Escape.
There wasn't much trouble falling asleep after that. After I was sure Mrs. B was dead, and after I'd stashed the emerald where it couldn't be found. Wasn't much trouble falling asleep at all. Like being out with a beautiful dame, and she liked you. And you went home and put your arms behind your head and smiled to yourself. And you slept the best kind of sleep of all. It got to be 8 o'clock in the morning, and that was all right, too. Because there I was having breakfast in the diner with another promise I'd made to myself. Her name was Marion Ryder. And she poured my coffee for me.
I've been thinking, Joe.
Uh-huh.
I've been thinking it was wrong what we did last night.
I'll tell you why it wasn't, Marion. You want to hear?
Just don't lie to me.
I'm crazy about you. See, I don't even have to look down into my coffee cup when I say it, like you're doing.
I'm sorry. Just that...
Wait a minute, honey. Conductor. Hey, come here a minute, you.
Yes? What is it you wish, sir?
I wish that you would go down to Mrs. Bankner's compartment and wake her up. Tell her this mush you waiter served for breakfast is lousy, but tell her she's got to get some food in her.
Yes, sir.
Well, don't just stand there. I wish it, so do it.
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Joe.
What are we saying, honey?
Don't call me honey.
Why not?
It's a word I don't care for. Just don't do it.
Yeah. No class, huh? Sure, wait till we get to Calcutta. I'll find the words that'll fit.
Joe. Leave me alone now.
But...
Calcutta is only a few hours away, Joe.
Sure. I know about dames, Marion. They need thinking time to make everything right with themselves. Sure. I'll see you later.
Morning, my boy. Morning to you. Morning.
Oh, hello, Mr. Rafferty.
Have you had your breakfast yet?
Yes, don't remind me of it.
Oh, you come along and have a coffee with me, then.
Thank you, but no.
Oh, by the way, my boy, Mrs. Bankner.
What about her?
Well, nothing about her, but I'm in the next compartment to hers, and I heard the conductor knocking on the compartment door just now, and she doesn't seem to answer.
Well, she sleeps heavy.
Oh, well, she's lucky. Well, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bankner? Breakfast, Mrs. Bankner?
What's the matter, conductor?
She doesn't answer. I've been knocking.
Oh, yes, sometimes she does that. Have you got a key to the door?
Yes, but...
Open it.
Very well.
Holy.
Something is...
Yes, something is all right. Come on in. Close that door. Look at her, will you?
Something is...
You said that. She's dead. I'll tell you something else. The lady's been murdered.
You said...
I said murdered. Look at the marks on her throat. Strangled.
Sir, her hand. Please, she is holding something in her hand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she is at that. A button.
Perhaps the man who did this thing to her. His button.
That's a real good, perhaps. Come on. Not a word about Mrs. Bankner to anybody, you understand?
Yes, but...
I'm a detective. I know about these things. Not a word. Come on. When do we get to Calcutta?
In 3 hours, noon. First stops are for water. A 5-minute stop at a village, Mipirai. Then Calcutta.
As soon as we get there, telegraph to Calcutta to the police. Tell them what's happened. And that's all. You understand?
Yes.
Well, now we go in here. In here.
But this is Mr. Rafferty's compartment.
Yes, the guy who did it. Close the door. I think he got what he was after from Mrs. Bankner. Maybe we'll find it.
There will be trouble. You are searching his things.
I told you I'm a detective. I know how to operate. Now, let's try this closet. Let me see. Nothing here.
But the button...
I'll give it to you. I'll turn it over to the British police when we get to Calcutta. Here, take it.
Yes. But the button in Mrs. Bankner's hand was brown.
Gray. Can't you see the button is gray? Take it. We stood there staring at each other for maybe a minute, and then his eyes eased off mine. He made a kind of sloppy salute. He turned, went down the train corridor to wherever it is conductors hold their heads in their hands. It had been awful close, awful tight. Tearing a gray button off Rafferty's coat while I searched it and palming the button off on the conductor, that was a little task that took delicacy and timing. So I'm delicate with my fingers, and my sense of timing is perfect, and I'm sure of myself. And that adds up to a win. When we hit the water stop, I got off to stretch my legs, to let myself breathe the fresh air so it would cool me off inside. The little guy running like a monkey on top of the water tank looked neat and clean in his white diaper and green turban. The hills covered with snow looked good, far away, but good. And then an Irish mosquito buzzed in my ear.
It's a lovely panorama, those hills. Lovely. It's like music. Flutes and bells and a flight of birds.
Yeah, they're like that. I don't know the words to the music, but they're like that.
It's a pity Mrs. Bankner isn't here to enjoy them with you.
What about Mrs. Bankner?
What about Mrs. Bankner? Well, why, she's dead. Murdered. Surely you knew that, my boy.
How did you find out about it?
Oh, you know how it is on a train. Things get themselves whispered about.
How did you find out?
Now, easy, boy, easy. You're a fiery one, are you not? It's only that I saw the conductor look inside, and me being a kind of friendly human being, and smart enough to know conductors know things, I asked him why he was sad. Asked him in a way that made it easy for him to answer.
Quicker, Rafferty. Get to it quicker.
Well, he told me that you told him not to say a word about the murder. And I said, whose murder? And then he says, Mrs. Bankner's. And I said, oh. And he said he'd be disgraced because it happened on his train.
What else, Rafferty?
And the matter of the button was deeply puzzling to him.
Button?
Yes, the button. Now, isn't that a queer thing to be puzzling to him? Him with a murder on his hands.
The train got going after that. Me too, my brain, that is. Things going around in my brain. Everything got mixed up with that crummy little button and that crummy little conductor. Imagine a guy so scared he had to shoot his mouth off like that and shoot it off to Rafferty, of all people. Conductor needed a little talking to, a finger waved under his nose. The way it happened, I was standing on the observation platform by myself, and he came right up to me.
Mr. Harriman? I beg your pardon, Mr. Harriman.
Yeah?
I beg your pardon, Mr. Harriman, but lunch is being served in the diner. An early lunch. We shall be in Calcutta in an hour.
Come here, you.
I beg your pardon.
I said come here.
You wish it?
Uh-huh. You know something? You look worried.
Because I am.
Why?
This whole affair. The murder and the...
Button?
That, sir. And the other thing. You say Mr. Rafferty is the murderer.
I told you not to talk to him.
I told him hardly anything. I didn't tell him he was suspect.
Oh, it's good you didn't. Real good for you didn't. Just let Rafferty coast, you understand? Then when we get to Calcutta, the police will arrest him because you've got the evidence. The button.
I've got it. Only...
Only what?
Only I thought it was brown.
You did, huh?
It was brown.
You're sure of it?
It was brown. When it was in Mrs. Bankner's hand, it was brown. When you gave it to me in Mr. Rafferty's compartment, it was gray. See, I have it here. It is gray.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Sir?
Give it to me. Thank you. Now, you know what?
It was brown.
Yeah, it was. But I'm saying something. I'm saying, you know what?
Sir?
I'm saying you've got to go. You really got to go.
Sir, what are you doing?
Right now, you got to go.
It was gray. No!
Now everything was right. Everything in place. The button I had proved Rafferty the murderer of Mrs. B. The conductor, everybody would say the poor guy had a bad accident. Now all it needed was the payoff to a dream. And that would be something named Marion Ryder.
Who is it?
It's Joe. I'm bringing you pretty flowers. Let me in.
I don't see any flowers.
You will. Shut the door, Marion.
All right.
Keeps twisting around inside me. I love you.
You can't say things like that.
Stop me. Marion.
Like this, Joe. Like that.
One of those things. I meet you, bang. Electricity, just like that.
Joe.
I love you. I'd do anything for you. I never said that to a woman
Joe,
before.
wait. I've got to tell you something first.
What's to tell me? That you're a crook? That you followed me and Mrs. B so you could lay your hands on the star of Kilimanjaro?
No, Joe, wait.
You're too late, kid. Mrs. B is dead, murdered. The emerald's gone. Something wrong, kid.
Oh, so much. so much.
Oh, nothing is wrong. Rafferty, the Irish poet, is going to take the rap for it. He was after the emerald, too, but he's not getting it. Just the gallows. That's all Rafferty
Joe,
gets.
listen to me. Stop talking and listen.
No, kid, you listen to me. I get $50,000 for it. We'll take it back to Samurai Doll and sell it to him again. $50,000, you and me. We can die from so much joy. I killed her for you.
You? You killed Mrs. Bankner? You murdered her?
Sure. Kid, it wasn't hard. You mean that much to me, so it wasn't hard. It was almost a pleasure. A down payment on our happiness, you might call it.
Oh, you spoiled everything. Oh, Joe, you poor fool.
Marion, is that right, Joe? You're such a fool.
Get out of here, Rafferty.
No tricks, lad. This gun I hold makes holes in people. You're people, aren't you, Joe? Or are you?
What do you want here? Tell me before I go for my gun, I do foolish things like that.
I don't doubt it. But first I'll tell you, lad. I know how you planted a murder on me with a button from my coat. I know where the star of Kilimanjaro is.
So you're nothing but a filthy, stinking jewel thief, just like I figured.
Not quite, Joe. Marion, tell him how I know these things. Tell him who I am.
He's the chief of the Magnum Insurance Company agents in Bombay.
Rafferty, you're crazy.
No. Magnum cabled him to follow you and Mrs. Bankner to make sure the emerald got back safely. Magnum didn't trust you with a stone like that. They put another man on to make sure you wouldn't steal it. And you had to kill her.
They can't prove it. I'll pin it on Rafferty, so help me.
But you killed her. You just admitted it.
Only to you. Your word isn't worth dust. You're a crook yourself.
No. Not quite. Marion?
All right, I'll tell him. Joe, I happen to be Rafferty's wife.
She said it. It only took her a couple of seconds, but that's what she said. But it took a long time for the words and the sound to get to me. And you know something? Looking at her then, and watching her mouth move, she looked real sad, and suddenly real lonely. You do it. You figure it, dame.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson. Tonight we have presented Figure a Dame by Richard Sale, adapted for radio by Morton Fine and David Friedkin. Featured in the cast were Frank Lovejoy as Joe, Joan Banks as Marion, Sarah Selby as Mrs. Bankner, and Ben Wright as Rafferty. Also heard were Paul Frees, Harry Bartell, and Gary Merrill. Special music was arranged and conducted by Del Castillo. Next week...
You are on a small ship off the coast of Borneo. In the waters beneath you lies a fortune in pearls, and at your side stands a man from whose murderous greed there is no escape.
Next week, we escape with Floyd A. Nelson's exciting tale of reckless men and their lust for treasure. Seeds of Greed. Goodbye, then, until this same time next week, when once again we offer you Escape. It's Christmas time. Lots of mistletoe, lots of packages, lots of carols being sung. And never a man to overlook a chance to celebrate, George Burns gets into the act with a special program of what he claims are Christmas carols. George's sponsor had certain ideas about George's voice a few weeks ago and fired him from the show. And tomorrow night, you'll learn how George's fellow singers and Christmas shoppers in general react. For one of the merriest of holiday shows, don't miss George's and Gracie's program on most of these same CBS stations this Wednesday night. Now stay tuned for Hit the Jackpot, which follows immediately over most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
the Johnson's Wax program with Fibber, McGee, and Molly. The makers of Johnson's Wax and Johnson's new water-repellent glow coat present Fibber, McGee, and Molly with Bill Thompson, Gail Gordon, Dick LeGrand, Cliff Arquette, and me, Harlow Wilcox. The script is by Don Quinn and Bill Leslie. Music by the Kingsmen and Billy Mills Orchestra, including Ken Darby's own musical setting for The Night Before Christmas. Johnson's new glow coat is now water repellent. That's the biggest development in floor care in the past 15 years. At last, there's a self-polishing floor wax that does not show ugly streaks or dull drab spots when you wipe up spilled things. Water, spilled ice cubes, or drinks tracked in mud or snow wipe right off that hard glow coat surface. And you don't wipe off the wax when you wipe up the water. Johnson's glow coat stays on, stays bright, even after repeated damp mopping. In fact, water-repellent glow coat now lasts up to 4 times longer. No need for frequent repolishing. More long-lasting floor protection for your money. It's the most economical self-polishing floor wax you can buy. Tomorrow, shine up your floors for the holidays. Protect them from the wear and tear they're bound to get. Save yourself work. Save yourself money. Get Johnson's new water-repellent glow coat in the regular glow coat package. No change at all in the container. Ah, but what a wonderful difference inside. There has always been a lot of rivalry in Wistful Vista over whose house is the most beautifully decorated for Christmas. Mr. McGee of number 79 has never placed in the first 25. Until maybe this year, because here in the hardware store, laying in a supply of outdoor lighting equipment, we find that once-a-year exterior decorator and his wife, Fibber, McGee, and Molly.
That be all, Mr. McGee? The reason I ask is on account I think you got everything we had in the store.
Oh, let me see. Check the list over with me, Bud. 900 foot of wire.
Wire.
3 pairs of pliers. Better make that 5 pairs. I keep losing them in the shrubbery.
Why don't you get a dozen pairs, McGee? We could give the extra ones as Christmas presents, with a little card that says we'd like to have done something bigger for you, but we feel the pinch this year.
No, let's be practical, Molly. 300 assorted light bulbs.
300 light bulbs.
Yeah, that's it.
Sure 300 will be enough, dearie? That'll hardly light up the country as far as Kansas City.
No kidding, Molly. You gotta allow for some of them burning out. I've had experience with these things. I'll bet you $2, kiddo, that the first person that comes to the door says, you got the prettiest decorated house on the whole block.
Well, make it $6. I want that one across the board.
Okay. $6 it is. Okay, Bud, we got the bulbs, the wire, 5 rolls of friction tape, 4 bags of nails, 2 cartons of holly, and 5 dozen assorted sockets. Check?
Well, we'd prefer cash.
I mean, you check with me on the list?
Oh, yes. A check, Mr. McGee, yes.
Check. Hey, wait a minute. I'll need a couple of step ladders. Good stout step ladders.
Well, I'll have to go out and get those, Mr. McGee. We keep the step ladders in the back room on account of shoplifters. I'll send the boy in with them.
McGee, for what you're spending on this project, why you could hire 3.
Hello there, McGee. Hello, missus.
Hello,
hi, Ole.
Hey, don't tell me you buying all this electric stuff. What you gonna do, McGee? Build a television station?
He's going to decorate the front of our house for Christmas, Ole.
Yeah.
He seems to have it confused a little with the Pentagon building.
Wait till you see it, Ole. It's going to be beautiful. You decorate your house this year?
Oh, yeah, sure, but not so fancy as you, McGee.
Oh?
We just hung up some holly and a little piece of miserable toe.
You mean mistletoe, Ole?
To kiss all my wife's relatives under it, missus, that's miserable toe.
Got all your Christmas shopping done, Ole?
Well, not quite, McGee.
Mm-hmm.
For my littlest kid, Sven, I got to get electric train.
Oh?
You know, that you drop in some smoke pills, and that makes it just like a real shoo-shoo.
Must be very amusing.
Oh, I wasn't laughing at the train, missus. I was laughing because last year my wife's brother, Thor, he swallowed 3 of those smoke pills by mistake for a headache.
My gosh, Ole, what happened?
Well, he yelled out toot toot, and then he run down the basement, fill his pockets with soft coal, shugs upstairs to the living room, and smoke coming out both ears. The last we hear of him, they get called from the roundhouse. Uncle Thor is there asking somebody to escape his boarder. That's
If I've forgotten anything now. Let's see. Wire, bulbs, pliers, tape, wires, step ladders, nails.
If you overlook anything, they can send it out in 2 or 3 truckloads. Well, here comes the lad with the ladders now, so let's see.
Pardon me, sir, but I got a couple of platters here. Are these yours?
How's that, Bud? Oh, the ladders. Oh, the step ladders. Yeah, just set them down here.
Oh, glad to.
Yes, you must be a little tired by now. I imagine this has been a rough week for you clerks.
Oh, I don't mind the work so much, but I don't feel so good today. I got up twirly.
You got up twirly?
Yes, ma'am, I didn't get enough sleep. Getting up swirly.
Yeah, I'll bet you don't, Bud. Like Ben Franklin used to say, twirly to bed and swirly to rise makes a man dizzy.
Yeah, makes me tired, too. I like to sleep late. But this morning I had to get a potato clock.
Really? I've never seen a potato clock.
Do they make them out of the whole potato or just the peel?
Oh, no. I guess you didn't understand me, sir.
Oh?
I mean, I got up early this morning. 8 o'clock.
Oh, 8 bells. Well, help me get this stuff out of the car, Bud, and we'll be on.
All right, sir, right away. And anytime you need anything else, just call up here and ask for Herbert Tapple.
Well, thank you, Mr. Tapple. We'll...
Oh, no, not Tapple, ma'am. Apple. Herbert Tapple.
Oh!
Yeah. Look, Bud, I'll show you where the car's parked. You can carry the junk out. Come on, Molly, let's go. Now, you see, Molly, all I got to do is run this wire around the house 6 or 7 times. That's where I was, round back with it. Run around the house 6 or 7 times and then hook up the lights to it. See?
Run the wire 6 or 7 times around the house? Well, why?
Why, to build up the current. You got to understand electricity to know these things. You see, that acts as an armature.
Oh?
Steps up the power.
I see.
You see, electricity is simply the result of friction. It was invented by 2 guys from Poland, Naprosky and Novotny.
Oh?
Naprosky always says, yes, electricity is friction, and Novotny always says, no, it ain't. And they became known to science as the positive pole and the negative pole. So when the positive impulse connected to a negative armature gets a resistance, it sets up a kilowatt. Hence the electrode. You see?
No.
Well, I'll break it down for you, Tootsie, except here comes Latrivia. Hi, Latrivia.
Hello, Your Honor.
Oh, hello, Molly. Hello, McGee. Hey, that's quite a job you've undertaken there.
You betcha. I got a $6 bet with Molly that when I get done with this job, the first person that sees it will say, you got the prettiest decorated house in the whole block.
Well, you have enough ungrammatical friends to get pretty good odds on it.
You care to stay and help, Mr. Mayor? Otherwise, I doubt if he'll be finished by Labor Day.
Oh, yeah? I've forgotten more about this stuff than most people ever knew. I wish I could remember some of it. But I suppose a politician like you is too busy for such low-type labor, eh, Latriv?
Yes, except that I prefer to consider myself a statesman rather than a politician.
Mr. Mayor, what is the difference between a statesman and a politician?
A statesman is always out to get his country the best deal he can. A politician is always out to get his.
That's very good, Latriv. You hear that, Molly? Latriv just made a very neat epigraph.
Yes, I heard it. You sure you can't stay and see this demonstration of electrical inefficiency, Mr. Mayor?
No, I'm afraid not, Molly. I'm on my way over to Westchester. I'm making a speech in favor of John Netcher for dog catcher.
Netcher for dog catcher at Westchester, eh? Oh, that's cute.
Who's he running against, Mr. Mayor?
A man named Fletcher, Molly.
Both Netcher and Catcher running for dog catcher at Chestwester?
No. Netcher and Fletcher are running for Dogchester, Westcatcher. I mean, Dog Netcher of Fletchwester.
Oh. Now, Now, you're a little mixed up, Mr. Mayor. You told us that Mr. Chester and Mr. Ketcher were running for net catcher or flex netcher. Or was it dog fetcher of net wetcher?
You betcha. No, let me take this slowly, please.
Yes, you better.
Fletcher and Netcher are running for dog catcher of nest wetster. I mean, of wet snatched it. Nat stitched it. Look, I said that.
Now, hold it, Mr. Mayor, hold it. We better get this straightened out before you try to make a speech in favor of anybody.
Yeah.
Now, then, you're going to Westchester, right?
That is correct.
2 guys are running for dog Fletcher, right?
No. They're running for dog catcher.
In Fletchwester.
No. In Westchester.
Oh.
Glad you get this straight. It's perfectly simple. Fletcher and Wetcher are running for dog Chester and Westchester. Running for Chester and dog Chester. Westchester. Oh, blast it! 2 minutes ago, I knew who was running for dog Chester of Westchester. Now I'm sorry I haven't met you. Merry Christmas and good day!
Billy Nelson, the orchestra, with a Christmas medley.
Hold it for you.
Oh, I'm okay. I'm coming down in a minute.
My goodness. The string of colored lights certainly looks pretty, dear.
You like them, kiddo?
Lovely. When are you going to put them up?
I'm going to start hanging the sockets any minute now. You steady the ladder while I hop down off it, will you?
I've got it. Careful now. Careful of yourself now.
What did I jump on?
Well, what would you jump on, dearie? Just a box of light bulbs, that's all.
Oh.
The only thing you could have jumped on, unless you just landed on the bare ground, of course.
Well, so what? I got plenty. Anyhow, look what I'm doing. I got nails drove clean across the front of the house, see, in the shape of letters.
Letters to whom?
No, I mean spelling letters, Molly. All I do now is hang these lights on the nails, turn them on, and presto, the front of our house spells out Merry Christmas in 6 delicious colors. Tricky?
That's a wonderful idea, dearie.
Yeah, the only thing is I made my letters too big, and I started over too far.
Well, is that bad?
No, only I couldn't get the whole word Christmas on the front here. The TMUS will be around the corner.
Well, that's all right, dearie. Christmas is just around the corner anyway. But now, look, you better hurry because it's getting late.
Well, hello, Molly. Hiya, pal.
Hello, Mr. Wilcox.
Hi, Junior. Grab a light bulb and you can help us put in some of these sockets here.
Oh, I'd love to, pal, but I've got lighting problems of my own at home this evening. Going to trim a Christmas tree.
That's no problem, Mr. Wilcox, if you have the lights.
Well, I checked over the lights last night, Molly. Had 4 strings left from last year, but 3 of them wouldn't work.
Did you finally find one that would work, Junior?
Say, I'm glad you mentioned woodwork, pal. Of course, you sort of dragged it in by the heels there, pal. But as long as you brought up the subject of woodwork, let me tell you about the greatest discovery in years for protecting your wood floors and linoleum. It's Johnson's new water-repellent glow coat.
Oh, of all the... Look, Junior.
Oh, now, McGee, it's Christmas week. Let's humor him.
Oh, well.
What did you say that new discovery is, Mr. Wilcox? Tell us about it.
Well, if you insist.
Don't crowd your luck.
Okay. Okay, it's the new Johnson self-polishing water-repellent glow coat. The one self-polishing floor wax that does not show cloudy, milky-looking spots when you wipe up dirt and spill things or mop them up with a damp mop.
Yeah, we know, Junior, we know.
Hush,
Whoa.
Hush.
Yes, sir. That gleaming wax protection that glow coat gives your linoleum stays on and stays bright, even after repeated damp moppings. That means the new water-repellent glow coat will last up to 4 times longer than before.
Isn't that interesting? Why does it last longer, Mr. Wilcox?
Don't encourage him, Molly. Don't encourage him. You know why it lasts longer? Because it's water-repellent.
I know.
Because when you mop up the floor, you don't mop the wax off. That's why housewives are flocking to buy the stuff.
Not stuff, pal.
Huh?
We never refer to the new Johnson self-polishing water-repellent glow coat as the stuff.
They buy it because they don't have to put it on their floor.
What?
As often.
Oh.
So it saves them time and dough because it lasts so much longer. And the new water repellent...
Hey, look, Waxy.
Yes, pal?
Look, I'd love to stay here and hear more about this wonderful new product, but I've got to run.
Where, Mr. Wilcox?
In my right sock, you see. Got to go home and change. Have a nice Christmas, kid.
Well, Gunner, I wish I had a flashlight to see these lights with. It's darker here than I thought.
You have, dearie.
Huh?
I had a hunch you might take a little longer than you thought, so what did I do? I brought your old brakeman's lantern out, the one with the green shade.
Hello there, Dottie. Hello, Johnny.
Well, Mr. Oldtimer, and hello there, Bessie.
Hello, you all.
Excuse me while I keep working, old-timer. Hold the light here, Molly. Where you been? Christmas shopping?
Oh, been to the post office, Johnny. Guess you got a letter.
Yes, I did. It's a letter from my sister, Mrs. McGee. She's away at finishing school.
Well, at finishing school, your sister?
I'll read it to you. It says, Buckley Finishing School. Dear Bessie, I'm finished. Love, Essie.
Nice letter. Bessie and Essie, eh? Interesting names.
Yes, Bessie and Essie were twins at one time, Johnny. Just for a while, of course.
Oh, how can you be twins just for a while? How long were you twins, Bessie?
30 minutes. Then my brother Jesse was born and made us triplets. Oh, Mama had such a great sense of humor. She knew all the answers.
Speaking of answers, kids, me and Bessie had us quite a time this morning. Went to one of them radio quiz shows. Didn't we, Bessie?
Oh, gracious, yes. The doctor of ceremonies said, is there a dancer among those present? So I did a dance.
Jitterbug, Bessie?
No, I got up and did.
I'll tell this, Bessie. I'll tell it. I started it.
O-O-T-U-R.
Bessie's got a habit of hogging all the gab, kids. All she wants for Christmas is her 2 front teeth kicked in. Don't you, baby?
Oh, you stop teasing me, O.T.
No. Well, sir, Bessie got up at this quiz show and she done a hula-hula dance, but the feller made her stop.
Yeah?
He says, no cooching from the audience, please.
She made a motion before the House and they voted her down, did they? Did you win anything down there?
We sure did, Johnny.
Yeah?
Me and Bessie won us a Cocker Spaniel and a year's supply of poodle noodles. New flea-repellent dog biscuit.
Well, now, isn't that nice? Where's the dog now? Is he with you?
No, we took him over to my house and fed him, Mrs. McGee.
Yep.
took one bite of them poodle noodles and then a bite of Bessie's leg.
We was in the living room and he bit me right on the settee.
Never mind. Anyways, he barked, bit Bessie, and bolted. And we ain't seen him since.
My gosh. He runs off and leaves you kids with a year's supply of dog biscuits, eh? What are you going to do with them?
What are we going to do? Put jelly on him, Johnny. Come on, Bessie.
That's how you are. Merry Christmas.
Well, go on, Bessie.
Well, I hope you're nearly finished, McGee. But it's so dark I can hardly see you up on that ladder. You are on the ladder, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm up here. Hold the brakeman's lantern over here, will you? I'm almost through it. There's the last bulb in.
Well, thank goodness. Now get down off that ladder before you break
Just a second, kiddo. I'll be right down. As soon as I turn the juice on by twisting these two little wires together. I got them right here and... What happened?
You came down. Also, our lights are out. Also, so are all the lights in the neighborhood except this little brakeman's lantern. And I'm going to hang it up here on the steps so we can see our way through this mess. Are you hurt?
No, but let's get in the house before the neighbors start beeping.
My. Come on in the living room, dearie.
Doggone it. Here we planned the prettiest decorations in the whole neighborhood, and what do we wind up with?
Well, a green lantern shining on the front porch. The only light in the whole block and the only...
Uh-oh. Now, if that's one of our nosy neighbors snooping around here, trying to find out who blew out his lights, I'll tell him to come in.
Hi, mister.
Oh, Teeny. Hi, Teeny.
Teeny.
Now, look, if your father sent you over here to beef about his lights being out...
Oh, no, mister, no. I just came to tell you got the prettiest decorated house in the whole block.
Yeah, but... What did you say?
Who?
You.
When?
Just now.
About what?
About we got the prettiest decorated house in the whole block.
I know it. It's just peachy. The simplicity of it. When I saw that green lantern shining on the faces of all those carolers out there.
Carolers?
What carolers, Teeny?
I didn't hear any carolers.
Sure you didn't, I bet you. They haven't started yet. Hey, Jenny and Ratty and Buddy and Johnny, come on in, kids. Hello, boys. Now, let you carolers sit down, and you sit over there, Diane. Ready, gentlemen? And a 1, and a 2, and a 3. Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with prayers, in hope that St. Nicholas soon would be there.
The children were nestled all warm in their wee little beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their wee little heads. Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's
Went out on the lawn, there arose such a clatter. I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window, I flew like a flash, flew over the shutters, flew over the sand. Then, what to my wondering eyes could appear but a miniature sleigh, and a tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick that I knew right away that it must be St. Nick. All bundled in fur from his head to his foot, old Santa was covered with ashes and soot. I drew in my head, was turning around, when down the chimney he came with a bomb.
The beard on his chin was as white as the snow.
The stump of a little old pipe he held tight in his teeth, and smoke went around and around and around his head like a wreath. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf. Then I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. He had a broad face, and a little round belly. That chucked when he laughed, like a ball full of jelly. He gave me a wink of his eye and a twist of his head. A chuckle and a smile I knew all the while I had nothing to dread.
He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stocking of mine, then turned with a jerk and laying a
finger aside of his nose and giving a nod up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his big overcoat, and away they all flew like the down of a pistol. But I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and to all, good night. After Christmas and all through the house, not a creature is stirring, not even a mouse. The presents are scattered and broken, I fear, and St. Nicholas won't come again for a year. Children are never all warm in their wee little beds, while batteries of sugar plums dance in their wee little heads. Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap are settled at last.
Yes, please. Anything else, please?
What do you got so far?
Lady, order one chow mein, one roast pork, one fried rice. What the gentleman have?
Tell the cook I want some din yip har.
Sorry, please. Din yip har, not Chinese dish. I never heard din yip har.
You tell the cook what I said.
Yes, please. I tell him. So sorry, please.
That's all I got to do, argue with a Chinese waiter.
Oh, why should he be different? You argue with everybody.
Keep up that kind of talk, and I go to work on you, Georgie.
Well, anything will be better than just sitting here staring at you. Hey, what is this din yip har you ordered? I never heard of it either.
Who cares what you heard of? I bet you never heard of the Declaration of Independence.
Sure I did, but you didn't order that.
Oh.
Johnny,
What?
What's got into you lately? You're either picking a fight or you climb up so tight I don't know whether I'm better off if you talk or not.
You're better off when you don't ask questions. Johnny, what's this dinner pie you ordered? What's the difference what it is? You don't have to eat it.
Maybe I'd like it.
Maybe I'd like to bust that pretty nose of yours, but I ain't going to. Stop battling with me. I got troubles.
You got troubles. I got troubles. Living in a crummy flat, eating in a crummy joint.
This joint's crummy. You know what that stuff I ordered is going to cost me?
I don't know nothing according to you. How should I know?
It's going to cost me $15,000. Just for that din yip har you wanted to know so much about.
Yes, Mr. Vance.
Nothing. Just wanted to make sure you were here.
America's foremost private investigator takes nothing for granted. He sees me from the door of his private office, but he must make sure it's I by calling me.
I hadn't seen you, my dear. Besides, what good's a private investigator if he's not investigating?
Ask me sometime after business hours, and I'll answer that. Only the way you've been working, there's no such thing as after business hours.
Doesn't look like any relief is in sight, Ellen. That fellow Markham mentioned call yet?
No, and he hasn't shown up. What's this case, Vance?
The district attorney called to tell me there was a jewel robbery in Chinatown last night.
Oh?
A man was murdered during the course of the theft, and the police have no idea who did it.
And so Markham has asked you to help.
Yes, but he's given me an assistant. Some bright young Chinese fellow the district attorney uncovered. I'm taking him with me when I go investigating the crime.
I'll wear my hair in a queue if you take me.
I'll take that matter under advisement. Let me know, will you?
Hi, Jake. Boss man around? I'm Lee Wong. Got my boots laced and raring to travel, as he's expecting me.
He was expecting somebody, but I doubt whether you're what he expected.
Come in, Mr. Wong. In here to my private office.
Reed. Thanks, lady. Be seeing you.
At least he didn't whistle at me. Well, I guess I'd better get back to work.
Well, Vance, here I am. Markham sent me. I'm supposed to take orders from you. Slip them to me, boss man.
Well, Mr. Wong,
You can skip that Mr. Wong stuff, Vance. Name's Lee. I'm Chinese, but I was born, raised, and educated here, so I talk like a real American.
I hate to believe that. Lee, do you know what I'm going to work on?
Natch. That robbery and murder down in Chinatown. Well, that's why I'm here. I know the section backwards.
Well, that's hardly the way to approach a case, but I have an idea we'll do all right together. Would you like to visit the scene of the crime with me now?
Sure, only there isn't much sense to it. The cops have kicked around anything that we might pick up.
Perhaps you're right. Lee, why don't you meet me in Chinatown tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night? What goes with tonight? With right now?
I have a plan about tomorrow night. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it's a plan that will bring us the murderer.
What? You haven't been to the scene of the crime, don't know the dead man, don't even know what jewels were stolen, and you think you can drag in the killer?
I think so.
Darn clever, these Americans.
Now, look, Suey, will you stop griping about your cut? We got a good thing going for us. It's a swell place to stash hot jewelry till I get ready to pick it up. If we have a fair deal, I'm not changing it.
No? Well, maybe you'll change your mind, Johnny.
All right. Nobody'd think of looking in the kitchen of a Chinese restaurant for the stuff, but we'll argue about a better deal later. Right now, I want to test...
Wait a minute.
Oh.
One chaptui, one mugugutan, one lumen.
Hola.
Song kahayo kayat.
Wela.
Yang kajo wela mukia lo so.
Get rid of him in a hurry. That, Uhuila means get lost, doesn't it?
Something like that. What is it you want to tell me?
Well, just this. I got a real big deal planned for tonight. We'll run it just the same as always. I'll see that stones get to you.
Yes?
You hide them till I come in the front of this place, just like any customer, and order din yip pie, like always.
And why you steal this time?
20-carat diamond from one of your merchants. There's a piece in the paper about it this afternoon. Now, you just be ready to grab it when I get it to you.
Will do.
And, Su Ling, remember, when you get it,
keep it for me. Don't hoo-wee law.
This is Attorney Markham speaking.
This is Vance, Markham.
Well, hi, Vance. How'd you like the job I did in the newspapers for you this afternoon?
Excellent. That's what I'm calling about. Thank you very much for your help.
Don't thank me. It's you that's trying to help me solve that Chinatown murder. Oh, by the way, how was that Lee Wong chap I sent you?
He's quite a young man, Markham.
That he is. Refers to himself as a hep Chinese. It's kind of a perfect description, I'd say. I imagine it'll be of help to you.
I imagine so. I'm meeting him late tonight in Chinatown. With the assistance of the story you planted in the newspapers and a venerable old gentleman named Lo C, plus whatever help your young friends can give me, I hope you wrap up this case of yours as tight as an egg roll.
We're glad that car came past just now, Vance. It was awful lonesome down here in the shadow.
I know what you mean, Lee. But hiding here is part of my plan. If the thief we're looking for rises to my bait, we'll be out of here very soon.
What kind of bait are you talking about?
I persuaded Lo C, who owns that house across the street, to bring out of its hiding place a 20-carat diamond, which he placed on exhibition in his home after announcing the fact to the newspapers through the district attorney.
Hey, you're pretty hep yourself, Vance. That'll bring the thief out into the open, all right. But why do you figure it'll bring him out tonight?
2 reasons. One of them is that after his robbery and murder of the other night, he'll want to leave town. But he'd like to leave with Lo C's diamond.
Oh, and the second reason?
That car parked across the street. There's a girl in the driver's seat, and the engine's running. I think we're on the right track.
That means we get some action. Yeah, good. Only
what?
Holy cow. I was supposed to help you on this case, and so far I haven't done anything.
I'm sure if I needed help, you'd have been very valuable.
Gee, thanks for that. Sometimes I... Hey, thanks.
I see what you mean. Man just leaving Lo C.
What are we waiting for? Let's go.
Right you are.
We gotta get him before he hits that car. Hey, you, stop! At least we scared off the dame in that car. I'll catch that guy, Vance. I'm a track man.
I'm right with you. We ought to get him before he hits the bottom of that stoop.
Leave him to me. He's my meat. You ain't going anywhere, brother. Oh, no. No.
Give me a chance to get in this, Lee.
Turn him around this way. Come on, Vance. Close in. I'm holding.
You're holding nobody. Even for this Vance, I'm making him a present of you.
Oh, ow.
It's right. Almost knocked the wind out of me.
I'm sorry, Vance. He shoved me into you. Come on, let's get after him.
No point in that, my young friend.
What? Are you kidding? After all these gimmicks you cooked up, you're going to let him get away?
Not at all. The police have this block surrounded. I venture to say the young lady in the car is in custody by now, and so is the fellow you were battling with.
Well, knock me down and call me Flatso. You really do things right, don't you, Vance?
I'm not sure yet. I planned this so that the thief could steal Lo C's diamond. I'm pretty certain he did, judging by the fact that he was coming out of Lo C's house at this hour, and the fact that he had a getaway car already. But
what?
But I still won't know if my plan is successful until the police find Lo C's diamond on him.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Sure would make you a schmo if the diamond was stolen. The police did pick up the guy, and he didn't have the stone. That would make you a schmo.
Yes, I imagine it would. But let's not anticipate that possibility right now. If Markham and the police have done their work, they'll have our friend and his getaway girl safely at headquarters very shortly. That's where I'm headed, to find out a couple of things.
One of them, of course, is to find out whether they have Lo C's diamond. What's the other?
To find out whether or not I'm a schmo.
Now, listen, both of you. We caught you fleeing from the scene of a crime. I've got enough on both of you to send you to jail for 10 years.
Listen to the D.A. rage, Georgie.
Yeah. I bet he likes to hear himself make speeches.
Apparently, talking isn't going to do me any good. Is that it?
I guarantee if it ain't, it's close.
What were you doing running along Chang Street an hour ago?
I'm an ex-athlete. I like to keep in condition.
You, young lady. What were you doing parked in a car in front of Lo C's house with the motor running?
I was taking a nap, and then all of a sudden I discovered I was parked in front of a fire hydrant, so I sprang. Oh, what do you want me to do, break the law?
I want you to tell the truth. You, Johnny Malloy, you've got a record.
That's right.
There was a robbery at Lo C's house tonight. You were seen running away from there.
Sure. I know the whole thing. I was running away. You caught me before I hit the end of the block, and you searched me. But did you find this diamond that's supposed to be missing? No.
Did Lo C, whoever he is, identify Johnny as the man who robbed him? No.
The robber wore a mask, but it had to be you, Malloy. We know it must have been you.
And where's the diamond?
Well, you might have thrown it away as you were running.
Get smart, B.A. But I know there were cops at the end of the block waiting to grab me. If I made that heist, would I toss that stone in the street?
All I know is... Vance, come in. Well, Vance, this is the result of your plan. You have this man and his girlfriend. They both deny they had anything to do with the robbery of Low C, and we can't prove they did have.
You didn't find the diamond on him.
No, and Low C can't identify him either.
Maybe I can.
Well, just how are you going to identify me?
You forget I saw you leaving Low C's house. And that I was standing next to you when you tried to get away from my friend, Lee Wong.
What do you mean, tried to get away?
What's your answer to that, Moy?
But I'll tell you. I went to call on Low C. I rang the bell. There was no answer. I was coming down the steps when two guys jumped me. I didn't know who they were, so I slugged it out with them, shoved one guy into this vance here, and I beat it.
Nice going, Jack.
Hey, thanks.
Well, Vance, what do you think? I could lock both of them on suspicion, but I really don't have anything on them that I can make stick.
You think you ought to let them go?
Well, I don't know what else I can do.
That decides it, then.
You know, Vance, this is the first time in all our association that a plan of yours went wrong.
I realize that, Markham, and it doesn't make me feel any too good.
It makes me feel fine.
Your state of well-being is subject to change without notice, Malloy. Markham,
yes.
I'm responsible for the loss of Low C's diamond.
Why don't you advertise for it? Maybe some honest guy found it.
As I was saying, Markham, I'm responsible for the loss of the diamond. It was I who urged Low C to use it as bait. And as you were saying, Markham, this is one time where I have been proven definitely wrong.
Well, now, Vance, don't feel so badly about it.
I feel very badly about it. But I have one more thing to say. It's true that I was wrong. But, Markham, I'm only going to be wrong temporarily.
This is District Attorney Markham. The case we're working on, which Vance calls the Chop Suey murder case, began with the robbery and murder of a Chinatown merchant. In an effort to trap the man responsible, Vance planned a scheme that backfired, and a large diamond belonging to a prominent Chinese was stolen. While we thought we had the criminals in Johnny Malloy and his girlfriend, they had no diamond when we captured them. In an effort to explain, Vance told me he was going to visit Low C, the man from whom the diamond was stolen. He should be there about...
More tea, Mr. Vance?
Thank you, no, Low C. And thank you for understanding how badly I feel about your missing diamond.
It was possible stone might have had real value. It was possible stone might have been instrument which brought criminal to justice. Thus, although stone worth many thousands of dollars, it failed in its true purpose.
It didn't fail. I did.
Oh, many times intentions better than results. Should man be censured for this? I think not. It was possible you erred in judgment, Mr. Vance, but not in motive.
Tell me something, Low C. You've lived in Chinatown for a long time.
Many years, my friend.
I'm convinced that somewhere between your house here and the corner where the police picked him up, Johnny Malloy got rid of your diamond.
Many houses on this street, Mr. Vance. Was possible Mr. Malloy hid diamond somewhere?
I don't think he hid it. I think he got rid of it by design, as part of a plan, so that if he were picked up getting away from this house, he wouldn't have it on his person.
Uh-huh.
Low C, is there someone on this block whom you have reason to distrust?
Well, many times do I hear stories about some man who worked in Sinyan restaurant near corner. Nothing do I know about it which I find for myself, so not for myself, so naturally I know nothing. I know nothing.
I understand. Thank you, Low C. The Sinyan restaurant, eh? I think I'll call my secretary. And if I can find her in, I'll see what we can find out at Sinyan's.
Oh, must you order chow mein every time you come to this Chinese restaurant, Georgie? Must you?
I don't must. I just do. And what's with you, Johnny? Can't I order what I like?
Well, always the same thing. Always the same.
Oh, how about you? Don't you want to order that vignette horror? How about that?
Well, that's different. That's business.
Johnny,
What's that?
duck down in the booth. Yeah, that's good. I'm facing the door. You know who just walked in?
Who?
That Philo Vance guy who came into the district attorney's office when the DA had us on the grill.
Philo.
Now, Vance has a game with him.
What he's doing here?
Maybe just came for some Chinese food.
Maybe, but why'd he pick on this plate? Georgie, maybe that Vance knows something. I get an idea, better take care.
Order for
Yeah. Okay. Hey, where's that dinner par I ordered?
Oh, it's not ready yet. I bring soon new customers. I see what they want.
Well, don't bother hurrying back.
I'll back when you finish. Hello.
Good evening. We'd like some roast duck, Chinese style, some chicken fried rice, and some lobster Cantonese.
Very good. Very quick. I get.
Ellen,
Yes, Sam.
take out your compact mirror, pretend to be fixing her makeup, and describe the people 2 booths in back of her.
Well, you're facing them, Dan.
No, but I don't want to be obvious. Go ahead, please, Ellen. It's important.
It is if you say it is. That's all I know. Say it is. That's all I know.
Well?
Well, the girl is attractive, blonde, and her eyebrows are dark, which means
Ellen.
All right, so I'm catty. All I can see is the back of the man's head. But there's a scar on the base of the neck just above his collar. What is all this?
This is what we came in for. Both C was right.
Whoever he is and whatever that means.
I've got this thing, Ellen. Low C's diamond was thrown up here by Johnny Malloy. That's the man you described.
Mm-hmm.
He was running from Low C's house when he must have seen the police blockade.
Well?
Now he's back to pick up his diamond. Probably has an accomplice in the kitchen who hid it for him until he caught him.
Vance, the waiter's bringing that table something with a silver cover on top.
Ellen, this is it. Stay here a minute. I want to see what that is. Unless I'm going to be wrong on this case all the way through, I tell you now that Low C's diamond ought to be under that cover. Be right back.
All right, Vance, but if you need any help...
I won't. Oh, Malloy.
Well, look who's here. The great Philo Vance. Georgie, say hello to Mr. Vance.
Hello.
Got a train good, huh, Vance? Well, what can I do for you?
You can let me look at that plate the waiter just brought you.
Oh, this one with the cover on? I ain't looked at it myself yet.
I'm sure of that. I've been watching you. I'll take the cover off it myself. Why, there's nothing here.
There is? Oh, I mean, what did you expect? Okay, Vance, you want anything else here?
No. No, I guess I don't. You'll both excuse me, I'm sure.
Johnny, what happened to what was supposed to be on the plate?
I don't know. It's supposed to be Low C's diamond. Something's gone haywire.
I'd say that everything was swell. If it was there, Vance would have spotted it.
Yeah, I know, but why isn't it here? If that cook is double-crossing me...
Excuse me, Mr. Malloy?
Yes, what is it, waiter?
Cook said to tell you he recognized Vance when I come in, so everything okay?
Everything okay? Oh, huh? I'd say everything was definitely okay. Tell the cook that he's got good eyesight and very good sense.
When did Lee Wong say he'd call, Vance? I like your office, but not enough to want to stay in it all night.
I didn't talk to the boy, Markham. I left a message for him. I'm going to need him very badly. I do wish he'd call.
He's a nice young fellow, Vance, and he has ambitions of being a private investigator, like you.
Oh, not like me on this case, I guarantee that. I'll get him. Vance speaking.
Hi, Tall Dark Detective. This is Lee Wong.
Yes, I might have guessed that. Lee, can you get a job as a waiter?
I don't know. I never did any waiting in my life, except for my girl. Why, what's up?
I want you to get a job as a waiter in the Sinyan restaurant. Work there this evening and come back to me with anything you find out about the cook there. And also if Johnny Malloy goes there regularly.
Jack, is that Malloy the character I tangled with in front of Low C's house?
That's the one. And Lee, I'll meet you at Low C's at midnight tonight. And I'm sure you're going to have something to tell me that I want to hear. Markham, I'd like you to meet my friend, Low C.
How do you do?
My humble house is yours, Mr. Markham, Mr. Vance. Please sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you don't mind our using your home as a meeting place.
It is my honor to have a home you care to use, Mr. Vance.
I hope I can reciprocate by getting back the diamond stolen from you, Lo-C.
I know only that you are tried. It's quite enough. As you told me on telephone, we wait for Lee Wong.
Yes. Vance asked him to get a job in that restaurant you believe might have an employee who is a little, shall we say, shady?
Is possible. Man only knows what he himself knows. What others tell him, he merely suspects. Oh, my doorbell. Also, my confession to old China, Lee Gong. Excuse me, please.
It's probably Lee Wong.
If it is, I hope he has something to tell you, my friend. Hello?
Hi, old pal. I'm Lee Wong. I'm supposed to
please, to come in.
Oh. Hi, Vance. Well, I got news.
I want to hear it, of course. But first, may I present you to our host, Lo-C. Lo-C, this is Lee Wong.
It is a privilege to meet one who aids Mr. Vance.
Thanks. Well, Vance, I did what you told me to. I got a job at that chop suey joint, watched the cook like you said, and saw him grab a gander at a certain teapot in his kitchen every once in a while.
And?
I knew I had to get him out of the kitchen, so I faked a phone call for him. He came out, I went into the kitchen, got into that teapot, and look what I found.
What? You found the diamond, Lee. You did a wonderful job. We're all indebted to you.
Oh, most certainly I am.
And I, too. Thank you very much, Lee. And although this is most ungrateful, I'm going to have to ask Mr. Markham to arrest you for robbery and murder. Start talking, Suling, and fast. Mr. Markham's waiting to hear what you have to say.
This the cook in the Chinese restaurant, Vance?
Right. Well, Suling?
I tell you, Lee Wong steal diamonds, kill man 2-3 days ago. He give me diamonds to hold, I hold them. Later, I give them to a man named Malloy.
He's talking about the original robbery and murder that happened before I got into this case, Markham.
I know. Go on, Suling.
I tell you this because Lee Wong, he tell you he got Lo-C's diamond from me. Yes, he got him from me, but he gave it me the night Lo-C was robbed.
Lee Wong has confessed, Suling. There's nothing else he could do, considering that Vance knew all about him. By the way, Vance, how did you know?
Let's go back to the night of Lo-C's robbery, Markham. To begin with, I believe the first robbery and murder and this one were done by the same gang.
I understand why, Vance. Go ahead, please.
Jimmy Malloy stole Lo-C's diamond, came out of the house, and there we were, Lee Wong and I. Lee had no chance to warn him in advance that we'd be there. Malloy immediately suspected a trap and dropped the diamond in Lee Wong's pocket as they were struggling.
That is right, Mr. Vance.
Thank you. Now, if Lee Wong turned the diamond in, I wouldn't have suspected him. But he didn't. He waited until he found out that I knew something was wrong at the Sinyan restaurant. And then he decided to bring back the diamond and incriminate Su Ling here.
I'm still not sure I know why he brought it back.
He knew I was close to a solution of this case, and he wanted me off it. Lo-C's diamond was my personal responsibility. He knew I'd never stop until I recovered it, but that I might stop if I did.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I see why you didn't suspect Lee Wong right away, too. It's because I sent him to you.
Lee Wong go to district attorney in beginning to pretend to help while he find out what progress police were making.
That's understandable, Markham, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Well, we have Stu here, Johnny Malloy and his girl, and Lee Wong, all in custody. They'll all pay for what they've done in the end.
In the end, and at the end of the Chop Suey murder case.
Broadcasting Company present America's Town Meeting of the Air.
Town meeting tonight! Town meeting tonight from Town Hall, New York. Would a $100 a month pension for all retired persons provide real security? Here, the Honorable Maurice J. Tobin and Albert Linton, Robert R. Nathan, and Congressman Carl T. Curtis. Hear both sides and make up your own mind. Town meeting tonight. Everybody listen.
Town meeting fans from coast to coast will be delighted to learn that once again the radio editors of the nation have voted America's Town Meeting the best educational program and placed it second among public service programs in Motion Picture Daily's 14th annual poll for fame. As some of you know, Town Meeting has received more than 46 national awards during its 14 and a half years on the air. It is also a good reason for all of us to extend hearty congratulations to Mr. Denny, Mrs. Elizabeth Colkley, Town Meeting's program director, and all the members of the Town Hall staff. Next week, we have a very special announcement to make to you about Town Meeting programs beginning January 3rd. So plan to be with us next Tuesday night to hear Jackie Robinson, star of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Harold Russell, Motion Picture Academy Award winner and head of AMVETS, Betty Betts, young syndicated columnist for the Hearst papers, and Betsy Barton, author of The Long Walk, discuss the question, can youth have faith in the future? And now to preside over our discussion, here is your moderator, the president of Town Hall, founder of America's Town Meeting, George V. Denny, Jr. Mr. Denny.
Good evening, neighbors. Tonight we want to talk to you about something that concerns you very deeply. How much money will you have to live on when you've retired, and the ways and means of securing this money between now and then? This has been one of man's great problems for centuries. A few people in every society are able to handle the problem individually. But in the vast majority of cases all over the world, families take care of their aged ones, or they must depend upon such charities as that particular society provides. Even now, throughout this country, the richest and most productive in the world, millions of aged people are being provided for by their families and charitable institutions. In recent years, the idea of pensions obtained through private insurance companies, private businesses, and government has grown widely, and no enlightened person today opposes the idea of pensions. The only disagreement arises out of how to secure them and the amounts and at what age they should begin. For the purpose of our discussion this evening, we're taking 65 as a desirable age for retirement, although, of course, this does not apply in all cases. It's estimated that there are some 11 million people, 65 or over, in this country, and it's been proposed by Secretary Tobin and many union leaders that $100 a month would be a desirable figure for all retired workers in order to provide real security. The next question to arise is how such an income can be secured. Through individual contributions, through joint contributions by individual workers and the business enterprises for whom they work, or by the business enterprise alone, or by government, or some combination of all three. Then there's the third important question. Can all of us, during our working ages, roughly 20 to 64 inclusive, afford to provide such pensions for the rest of us when we're 65 or over? In other words, would a $100 a month pension for all retired persons provide real security, all things considered? We are very fortunate this evening in having four outstanding authorities to deal with this question. Secretary of Labor Maurice J. Tobin himself, and Robert R. Nathan, economist and attorney, who uphold the affirmative. Representative Carl T. Curtis, Republican of Nebraska, and member of the House Ways and Means Committee, and Mr. L. Albert Linton, president of the Provident Mutual Life Insurance Company of Philadelphia, and member of the Advisory Council of the Social Security Board, who uphold the negative. We'll hear first from Secretary Tobin, twice Mayor of Boston, formerly Governor of Massachusetts, and now Secretary of Labor in President Truman's Cabinet, the Honorable Maurice J. Tobin.
Mr. Denny and my colleagues on the program of Town Meeting of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen,
The real question before this town meeting is not whether retired persons need $100 a month in order to support themselves and their dependents at a decent standard of living. This is a simple matter of fact which can be verified by a visit to any corner grocery store and the statistics of family budget costs. We know that an elderly couple require $100 to $150 monthly in most cities to maintain even a very modest standard of living. The real issue here tonight is how we can most effectively meet this need. First, I believe we can all agree that the benefits provided by the present federal old age insurance law are grossly inadequate. The average old age benefit under this program is now $26 a month to a retired worker and only $41 per month to a retired worker and his wife. These benefits did not meet the needs of retired persons even in 1939 when the benefits were established. And since then, the cost of living has risen 70%. It is a tragic irony that those receiving old age assistance are now getting, on the average, almost twice as much in relief as retired workers get in earned benefits under the insurance program. That's the average of the whole of America. In California and Colorado, an aged couple can receive $150 a month on assistance with a need qualification. In Louisiana, over 80% of all aged persons are receiving relief payments of approximately $90 per couple. Unless we take steps now to put our payments to the aged on a sound social insurance basis, we are threatening the financial solvency of our states and localities. The gross inadequacy of the present insurance benefits has caused organized labor to negotiate directly with employers for pensions. Private pension plans have an important role in supplementing a public system, but it would be a serious error to think that these industry pensions can take the place of a comprehensive and basic system of federal old age insurance. These plans offer substantial protection only to workers who remain with the same company or industry until they reach the age of 65 and retire. If workers are laid off or change their jobs, or if their employer goes out of business, they are likely to lose their pension rights entirely under practically all private plans. The only fundamental approach to old age security problem is through an expanded and improved federal old age insurance program. I am for a major revision of the Federal Social Security Act. The benefits should be substantially liberalized so that they will come somewhere near providing adequate support for the great majority of the aged people today. I believe a pension of $100 for retired workers is a goal we should aim for. Benefits would vary in relation to previous earnings and family responsibilities. The House of Representatives has already passed a bill which has gone a long way in this direction. The Senate will consider the bill early next year, and I strongly hope that further improvements will be made. Finally, there is one aspect of this problem which has not been sufficiently emphasized. There is a tendency to assume that if benefits are made more adequate, all of the aged workers will leave their employment as soon as they qualify and will go on a pension. There is no basis for this belief. Over 3 million men and women 65 years and over are at present gainfully employed in the United States. Of all men over 65 years of age, almost 50% are now working. Moreover, many others would continue to work if suitable work were available for them. I have committed myself and the Department of Labor to do everything possible to promote job opportunities for these older workers. The solution of the problem for old age security depends upon 3 things: providing more job opportunities for older workers, providing an adequate income for those who retire, by improving the old age insurance program, and thereby abolishing welfare, old age assistance, which is placing an unreasonable tax burden on the states and on the local communities.
Thank you, Secretary Tilden.
Well, Mr. Linton, it's been a long time since you've appeared on town meeting, but I'm sure you remember your discussion with Mr. Frank Bain here in Town Hall on December 10th, 1936, just as our federal Social Security program was getting underway. Then as now, we were aware of your leadership in the insurance field and your special interest and qualifications to discuss this subject. For in addition to your position as president of the Provident Mutual Life Insurance Company of Philadelphia, you've served as a member of the advisory councils on the Social Security from 1938 to 1948. We're happy to welcome you back to town meeting, Mr. Albert Lincoln.
Secretary Tobin and I agree that there is a pension problem in this country and that something should be done about it. As I see it, the question is how and to what extent the problem should be met by government through taxation. Mr. Tobin is for an expanded and improved Social Security program. So am I. The annoying trouble with old age pensions is that they cost a lot of money. To provide a person age 65 with a pension of $100 a month for life, you need the equivalent of nearly $15,000 in cash at the time age 65 is reached. There is a limit to what we can safely and properly do in levying taxes. If the burden is too heavy, our economy will go backward. Taxes for pensions may take money that should fairly be used for the care and upbringing of children. The problem is acute because the tax gatherer already is taking so much of our money. War, man's greatest enemy, demands more than $25 billion for military expenditures, veterans' benefits, and interest on a huge war debt. Governmental expenses and foreign aid demand at least $15 billion. State and local governments take another $11 billion. Thus, before pensions enter the picture, government is already spending at least $51 billion, or about 23% of our national income. The tax load to pay such expenses reduces the standard of living for everybody. Many of the taxes are hidden. For example, an automobile costing $1,900 includes $400 to $450 of taxes. Taxes also do damage by drying up the sources of venture or risk capital. Without an adequate supply of such capital, we shall go backward. Instead of creating more and more wealth to be shared, the amount of wealth per person will fail to increase or will decline. England is learning that lesson the hard way. The question, therefore, boils down to something like this. By how much should the living standards of the working population and their children be cut down so that the living standards of retired persons may be raised? Let's look at some of the figures. There are about 11 million persons in this country aged 65 or over, of whom about 3 million are now working. Mr. Tobin's proposal would produce old age benefits for retired workers averaging close to $100 a month. Under Social Security, the wife at age 65 or over would receive 50% of that sum, making $150 per couple, $1,800 a year. Under the old age insurance system, very few persons would receive pensions of that size for many years to come. Eventually, however, these pensions would cost a huge sum, probably $20 billion or more a year. Today, there are about 8 persons aged 20 to 64 for each person aged 65 or over. 25 years hence, the estimate is only 5 persons aged 20 to 64 for each person over 65. We'd better be careful about promising larger pensions in the future than we are prepared to pay today. We are now collecting taxes to pay pensions. In 1950, the taxes to support old age assistance and to provide old age benefits under Social Security may come close to $4 billion. This may cause the total tax load to approach $55 billion if the budget is to be balanced. To obtain the money to pay now to all retired persons what Mr. Tobin would promise for the future would probably make it necessary to add $3 to $4 billion to the tax bill. But the budget, with its approximately $55 billion in prospective expenditures, is already billions in the red. Unless other expenses can be reduced, the new taxes coming in and being paid out as pensions would leave us as much in the red as we were before. On top of our present tax load, they might be enough to break the camel's back and bring on a depression. In that event, all, particularly the aged, would suffer. When we consider that our huge budget is several billions out of balance, that on the average the working force of the country is working the equivalent of 8 to 10 hours every week, 400 to 500 hours every year, merely to pay the taxes now being imposed, would be willing to work to make greater provision for old age than we are now making. Wouldn't it be wiser to see whether we can make better use of the $4 billion we are now collecting for pensions before increasing our tax burden?
Thank you, Mr. Linden. Our next speaker, Robert Nathan, is a consulting economist and attorney of Washington, D.C., who's written widely on the subject we're discussing tonight, and his studies have been the basis for wage demands of labor in the steel industry. He served during the war as chairman of the planning committee of the War Production Board, and later, after joint government service, as deputy director of the Office of War Mobilization and Reconversion. Mr. Robert Nathan is also a popular town meeting speaker. Mr. Nathan, welcome back to this platform.
Thank you, Mr. Denny. America's natural resources, machinery, and skilled manpower are so vast that we can certainly do away with poverty among all our people. It makes no sense whatsoever for so rich and resourceful a country as ours to fail so miserably in providing real security for its aged people. The individual cannot fully take care of himself in his old age. A few simple figures prove this. In the prosperous year of 1947, more than 1 out of every 3 families in the United States was unable to save anything. And most of this group had to dig into accumulated savings or had to borrow money to make both ends meet. And another third of our families saved less than $200 in that boom year. Would they be able to save up $15,000 to buy that annuity, which Mr. Linton mentioned in his talk? I ask, is this enough to provide old age security? Though thrifty and responsible, the American citizens cannot assure their own security because more than 1 out of every 4 American families earned less than $2,000, and half earned less than $3,000 in the boom year of 1948. The overwhelming majority of American citizens are unable to maintain modest standards of living and still provide for their old age and other hazards. Providing security for our senior citizens does not mean the end of freedom and security. In the late 30s, we were warned again and again that millions of people working on government work projects would never again accept employment in private industries. And yet, when job opportunities became available during the war, these honest and conscientious Americans moved into private employment gladly and speedily. I say that security for Americans will not destroy their initiative and make them into public charges. America can readily afford to provide a $100 a month pension for retired workers. Such a system will yield a steady income for the retired workers' families roughly equal to about 1/3 of the average family income in America today. Now, those who are retired today somehow or other do eke out an existence. Many live on public assistance, and they suffer the degradation associated with accepting relief. Others live on their children or other relatives, and that creates further hardship. Some few, and they are few indeed, have been able to save enough to take care of themselves. Now, an assured pension will increase consumption by the older people somewhat, but more importantly, this will substitute certainty for uncertainty and dignity for pauperism. Such a pension system will be helpful to our economy. Millions of aged people will have an assured means of buying goods and services, which this country can and does produce in such vast quantities. We must realize, and we must never forget it, that a prosperous America requires not only a productive America, but also consumption of what we produce. Businessmen don't employ people merely because they like to have them on their payrolls. They employ and they produce in order to sell their goods. And we in America must have a high level of consumption if we're going to have high levels of production. And a fully employed economy, a prosperous economy, will find this pension system much less costly than a depressed and an unemployed economy. Pensions can be a factor in maintaining prosperity. Now, no one likes high taxes. Actually, however, taxes will have to be increased only moderately to finance such pensions. We mustn't forget that payments under the Old Age Assistance Program will be greatly reduced. We must remember that assessments now placed on many private plans will be diverted to this federal pension plan. And we must also remember that not all people over 65 will or should retire. I believe that the cost of such a system is manageable. In essence, what we are proposing is a system taxing the workers and the corporations of America some modest proportion of their total revenue, so as to give to those who have given so much to this country some assurance of real security in their declining years. A nation with a $250 billion national product, a nation whose corporations earned $23 billion after taxes in 1948, a nation whose gainful labor force totals over 60 million people, cannot afford to fail to provide $7 billion a year at current requirements to guarantee a reasonable minimum standard of living for those 4 million workers who have retired and for their wives. Thank you.
I can see that this audience is ready with a lot of questions, Mr. Nathan, but we'll hear next from the gentleman from Nebraska, who also has some questions to raise, as he's specialized in our Social Security system. He entered Congress in 1938 at the age of 33 and is now a ranking Republican member of the House Ways and Means Committee, which originates all of the nation's tax and Social Security legislation. We are very happy to present for the first time to this town meeting microphone Congressman Carl T. Curtis of Nebraska. The question, does a $100 a month pension for all retired persons provide real security, is one of considerable interest. There must be a program for our aged people. We must not lose sight of the fact, however, that whatever is paid to them is paid by their friends, their relatives, their neighbors, by their children, and by their grandchildren. It must be taken from the standard of living of all of these people. To picture the payment as easy, without sacrifice or hardship, is a snare and a delusion. Mr. Tobin submits a proposal for an old age insurance with a goal of $100 a month for all retired workers. Mr. Tobin would do this by liberalizing and expanding our old age insurance program. It is a promise of a future benefit for but a segment of our population. It is a promise to the worker, who may now be 30, 40, or 50 years of age, a retirement benefit of $100 a month. It does not take care of this generation of old people. The older citizen today, who is out of the labor market and who cannot work, or who has been too old to work for several years, cannot qualify under an insurance program. In addition to failing to do justice to this generation of needy old people, Mr. Tobin's proposal would commit future generations of taxpayers to the payment of untold billions of benefits, not only 50 years, 100 years from now, but so long as the government stands. A conservative cost of Mr. Tobin's proposal, when it would mature, would be $20 billion a year. We would bind our children and our grandchildren by contract to pay $20 billion for old age insurance each year. Our children would have nothing to say about it. It is an insurance contract that would either have to be paid or repudiated. Again, let me say that when Mr. Tobin proposes to build on our existing old age insurance program, he is making grandiose promises for the future, but not taking care of this generation of old men and women who have toiled all through the years. How can the old person, now unable to qualify for work, qualify in an insurance program? I oppose Mr. Tobin's proposal because it would place an unbearable future burden on our children, and because it does not cure the evils of our present unworkable old age and survivors insurance and old age assistance program. I submit that in any given year, those of us who are able to produce should take care of those who are unable to produce for themselves in that year. That we should meet the need and pay for it in that year, so that when the year ends, the need has been met, the bill has been paid, there is nothing promised and nothing owed. Then we leave to future generations of taxpayers the right to determine for themselves how much they would pay for these social programs. The administration of Franklin Roosevelt never spent for all purposes of government in any year, including PWA, WPA, agriculture, national defense, and all the rest, as much as $11 billion a year in any year up until the armament program of 1941. The Tobin old age insurance proposal would require our children 40 years from now to pay almost twice that sum each year for old age insurance alone. There is no security in bankruptcy. The present value of every farm in America, together with the farm equipment and livestock, is just a little more than the yearly cost of the Tobin proposal when it matures some years from now. Let us see how the Tobin proposal would work. Let us take the case of the corporation official whose salary has been something over $250 a month and who retires in 1949. His old age insurance benefit would be raised by Mr. Tobin to $100 a month. This corporation official has only paid in his entire lifetime the total sum of $390, or less than what he would draw out in 4 months. He would draw this $100 per month for the balance of his life, which is estimated at 12 years, at the expense of the rank and file of the American people. At the same time, Mr. Tobin's proposal offers nothing for the needed aged person who has been unable to work for the last 10 years. The Tobin proposal means bigger deficits, higher taxes, higher living costs, and less security for this generation of aged, needy people and for all of us. Thank you, Congressman Curtis. Well, Secretary Tobin, he's raised a lot of questions for you there. I think this is a good time for us to get up here and huddle around the microphone and for you to talk back. Mr. Secretary?
I am wondering whose proposal Congressman Curtis is talking about. I can't recognize my own baby. But I think I recognize in his proposal one in which there would be no direct levy of taxes. So I'm interested in whether or not he's interested in a modified Townsend plan and how much he would propose to pay to the retired workers.
Mr. Curtis, in answer to Mr. Tobin, I have submitted no plan. I am not offering none. I have none to defend. He has offered to pay each old person in the country $100 a month. That would cost $20 billion a year by the most conservative estimate. Where would you get the money, Mr. Tobin?
I would just say this to you. I have not offered $100 to every person in the country. We have carefully discussed that. Under no circumstances would we grant a pension that would be greater than the amount of money that a person had earned during their working lifetime. The proposal was that we pay 60% of a worker's earnings up to $100. And then on the upper levels, beyond the $100, that would be a $60 minimum basis. Now, how would I raise the money? On the same method that is used in old age and survivors insurance at the present time, by a joint payment, by management, and by labor. And in the event that the costs go up higher at a later date, there is the possibility of the participation of the federal government in the program, as was recommended by President Lincoln's program, and he signed I think he testified at a later date that he differed with the recommendations of the Social Security Advisory Committee, but he did sign the original report with that recommendation.
Now, Mr. Lincoln.
Well, Mr. Tobin very definitely said he thought that the proposed Social Security program should be greatly increased, and if I understand his figures, it would certainly be double the average payments which are to be provided by this new bill passed by the House. Now, the ultimate cost of that bill, as estimated by the government's actuary, is roughly $12 billion in 50 years from now. I can't see how twice that amount, which would be certainly well over $20 billion. I did not sign the $20 billion. I signed the one which is proposed by the Advisory Council, which is much closer to reasonable figures.
Mr. Secretary?
The difference in the proposal that I have made and the proposal that was made by the President Linton's committee, under no circumstances would ever be a 100% increase. I think that it would be reasonable to say that a 30% increase would be about as much as would be involved.
Thank you. Mr. Nathan, what are you doing back in the corner?
Well, I have a couple of comments on these figures, Mr. Denny, I'd like to make. In the first place, I think Mr. Linton's assumption that a very substantial portion of the people over 65 who are working will retire should not and does not bear any real basis. I believe that we should try to set up a system which doesn't destroy the incentive for people to continue to work if they want to work. Let's not force them into retirement. On the other hand, let's not force them into pauperism to keep them working. Give them a choice. One other point, briefly, on this cost thing. Mr. Linton and especially Congressman Curtis talked about the cost 40 years from now. Let me say that if we had a pension system now, which was proposed 40 years ago, and they talked then about the cost when our national income was about $25 or $30 billion, it would look crazy. I have confidence that this country is going to grow and develop and prosper, and the national income 40 years from now isn't going to be where it is today, and I think the cost burden is not going to be so great that we have to let our old people wander and suffer as they will.
Congressman Curtis, now under the bill that passed the House of Representatives, the $250 a month man would get a primary benefit of about $64 to $67 a month if he'd been working for 13 years. Mr. Tobin's proposal, as I understand it, would give that man 60% of his average wage, which would be $150 a month. Now, how is he going to do that without increasing the cost only 30%? The program that the House of Representatives has already passed is going to cost about $12 billion when it matures. And Mr. Tobin would practically double that. Which one of you want to take that on?
May I, Mr. Denny, just say this. What Mr. Tobin has not said that he would give everybody 60% of his earnings, because, of course, if there were no upper limit, you could pension a man who made $100,000 a year with $60,000 a year. That's not the idea of the Federal Old Age Insurance Program. The idea of that program is to attempt to provide a $100 pension for individuals, but in no case to give them more for not working than they got when they were working, and that's why it's limited to 60%. The attempt here, it seems to me, is to try to provide some kind of a mechanism, some kind of a system, Congressman Curtis, to provide a degree of security which will not bankrupt this country, and I'm sure that the program proposed will not, and at the same time, give a degree of security that our resources permit.
Now, Congressman Curtis, I didn't say 60% of his earnings. I said 60% of $250, which would be a $150 a month pension, and that's quite an increase. Do you deny, Mr. Nathan, that this program, when it matures, would cost $20 billion? I asked Mr. Nathan.
Well, let Mr. Nathan handle it, please.
Well, that depends very substantially, Congressman Curtis, on what happens in terms of the number of the people that continue to be employed. It depends very substantially on the length of longevity of life, which I think is going to increase. It depends substantially on what happens in terms of the survivors and a number of other factors. I haven't any doubt, Congressman Curtis, but that 40 years from now, we in America will probably be spending around that amount for the security of our old people. But I also think 40 years from now, Congressman Curtis, if we keep growing as we did in the past, even without higher prices, our national income will not be $200 billion, but it will probably be somewhere around $500 or $600 billion. That's the way we've grown in the past. That's the way we'll pay for it.
All right. You've admitted it would cost $20 billion. How are you going to raise $20 billion? What kind of tax?
Mr. Tobin, Secretary?
I would like to get this situation down to a rational thinking. The proposal has been made by Congressman Curtis that this would cost $11 million. $11 billion. He has suggested that if a man received $250 a month, that 60% of that would be the pension that would be awarded him. Well, that must be Congressman Curtis's own plan, because it certainly is not mine. I believe that after $100 was reached, that we should follow along the lines that has been established under the Social Security plan that has been in effect since 1939. But I'd like to read to this audience the amounts of old age pensions that we have at the present time. I wonder how many people realize that we spend this year, next year, there will be raised $2.4 billion for old age and survivors insurance. That we have 140,000 civil servants on pension, and if President Lincoln was proper in his estimate that there would be one dependent for each retired person under the plan, then it's right to assume that each retired government worker now has one, and that amounts to $500 million. On railroad retirement, there are 230,000 beyond the OASI, Old Age and Survivors Insurance. And it's right to assume, if President Lincoln had the right, that they have at least one dependent each, or 230,000 more. In addition to that, there are state and local employees, totaling 174,000, doubling at 348,000. 1,088,000 people are today dependent upon pensions that are government in one form or another, which will greatly reduce the load that he has described. Then, despite we take that million off of the roll, in addition to that, he is assuming that every one of the 11 million people in the country are going to insist upon collecting a pension. When I'm inclined to believe that millions of American workers, if given an opportunity to do jobs that they're capable of doing at their age, that they're going to continue to produce in an expanding American economy rather than to live on old age assistance. And I am convinced that the program and the proposal would not cost now anywhere near $7 billion. And here's a list showing that we're spending $6 billion at the present time for various types of old age insurance under government office.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Now, Mr. Linton, please.
Well, Mr. Nathan did definitely suggest that $7 billion be put aside for old age pensions today. About how many people do you think would share that sum, and what would be the average, do you think, per person?
Mr. Nathan?
Mr. Linton, just very briefly, I think that we have, if I could summarize this, we have about 11 million old people today over 65, of whom about 3 million actually continue to work. They have somewhere between 1.5 million and 2 million people over 65 who are dependent on them, which means about 4.5 or 5 million. That leaves us about 6 million or so that are retired in the old age category. I'd say about 4 million of them were former workers, and about 2 or 2.5 million are dependents, the housewives, the widows, and so forth. I would guess that today would be somewhere between 5 and 6 million people under the pension system who would benefit, and those 5 or 6 million would probably, the primary beneficiary, that is the one who retired, might average around 100 or 125 a month, probably around 100 a month, and the spouse would probably average about 50% more. I'd say the total would be 6 or 7. But it wouldn't be much additional cost because, as Secretary Tobin pointed out, we're not collecting $2.5 billion under the taxes for Social Security. We're spending $1.5 billion every year for old age assistance, and these other retirement programs run up to about another $1.5 billion or $2 billion. And then on top of that, these corporations are now assessing for these new private pension systems, which would move over into ours. So the net additional cost, Mr. Nutton, I think would be very small.
Thank you, gentlemen. You're generating an awful lot of heat and light and billions, but there are a lot of questions out there in the audience, so let's pause now briefly for station identification.
Each week, Town Hall publishes a convenient pocket-sized pamphlet, the Town Meeting Bulletin, which contains the complete text in... The subscription rate for this bulletin is $4.50 a year. Now, if you'd like to receive the Town Meeting Bulletin each week, send your subscription to Town Hall, New York 18, New York. Or why not send a gift subscription as a Christmas present to some of your friends? If you send your gift subscription direct to Mr. Denny, he will write a personal letter to the person or persons you designate, saying that the bulletin is coming as a Christmas gift from you. Now, this applies only to gift subscriptions on a yearly basis. Send your remittance and the name and address of the person you wish to receive the bulletin direct to Mr. Denny, Town Hall, New York 18, New York. Copies of tonight's broadcast may be secured by enclosing 10 cents and sending your request to the same address. No matter what your age, you will want to be at your radio dial next week, December 27th, when Jackie Robinson, the famous second baseman of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Harold Russell, Motion Picture Academy Award winner and head of AMVETS, Betty Betts, the young syndicated columnist for the Hearst papers, and Betsy Barton, author of The Long Walk, discuss the question, Can Youth Have Faith in the Future? Now, if you would like to attend the broadcast, address your request for tickets to Town Meeting Ticket Department, Town Hall, New York. And now our Town Hall audience is ready with questions, and so for our question period, we return you to Mr. Denny.
Eureka Springs, Arkansas, addressing this question to Mr. Tobin, in view of the fact that money paid pension recipients goes mainly for commodity purchases, why not let an equitable sales tax bear this burden?
Secretary Tobin?
I believe in a good, sound insurance system under which both management and labor make their proportionate contribution. I further believe that if the day arrives that it is necessary, that the government should participate, because if the program goes through in the form that has been recommended by the Advisory Council of which Mr. Linton is a member, we will be able to eliminate a great many public payments that are now made at the present time. The workers of America have indicated a ready willingness to pay this tax. I think that there might be a resentment on the part of the general public against a sales tax. So when you find all sides willing to pay a reasonable tax, I don't see why we should turn to any other type of taxation.
Thank you, Secretary Tobin. The young man down here in the fourth.
I'm Bruce Dunn from Forest Hills, New York. I'd like to address my question to Mr. Nathan. Is it not true that too much consumption as well as high taxes cause depression and thereby harm the old more than helping them?
Would you mind repeating that again? I'm sorry.
Is it not true that too much consumption as well as high taxes cause depression and thereby harm the old more than helping them?
Well, in my judgment, total cause of depression is usually too high total expenditures, and usually in prosperity we get excessive investment rather than excessive consumption expenditures. What causes depressions, or what transpires during depressions, is that we don't have enough consumption. We don't have enough buying power among the masses of the people to buy the goods and services we can produce. What happened in this country in 1932? We had the productive facilities we had in 29. We had the workers. We had the raw materials. We didn't have the buying power to take the goods off the market that the American people wanted. And I believe that we will lend a great deal of stability to our levels of consumption, which will help us to maintain prosperity by being sure that this segment of our population has the possibility of a reasonably decent standard of living.
Thank you, Mr. Nathan.
Congressman Curtis. I'm Daniel Peel from New York. Are you, Congressman Curtis, opposed to the principle of an old age pension, or simply to the problem of the cost?
I am opposed to any system that fixes benefits now, the amount of benefits now, binding upon future generations. The insurance system will not work. It is estimated by the Social Security Board that there will be 22 million people over 65 by 1980. If we follow Mr. Tobin and guarantee him to give him $100 a month, it'll cost $27 billion. We cannot commit our children to that payment in 1980 and give them a land of freedom and choice for themselves. Thank you, Congressman Curtis. Do you want to speak to that, Mr. Tobin?
I'm amazed at Congressman Curtis's mathematics. It has now gone up to $27 billion. Just in a very short period of time. Now, I can remember back in 1935 when the Social Security law was written, the very statements Congressman Curtis is making now were the statements that were made by the Republican minority of the committee when the Social Security law was written. They predicted to the American people that there would be economic collapse, and instead of that, our social program has built a stronger economy in the United States than we have ever known before. It is a psychology of fear. Now, I'd like to make this statement, and it's going to be brief. When I was born, my expectancy of life was 48 years of age. I am 48 today.
A baby born today has a right to have an expectancy of 67 years of life. I will probably live to be 78. We're living in an entirely different world. And I think the best argument that has been made up to now for our side of the case has been made by Congressman Curtis and Mr. Linton. Yes, we will reach a period in America when there will be but one worker. There'll be 5 workers to every person over the age of 65. Now, what has happened? In our father's day, a man with his ordinary expectancy of life and with a slower process of industry, they could carry through to the ends of their days. But with the modern speed up and with Bob, what do you call that?
Technology?
Beltline of the modern day, an older man can't keep pace. And I say that we have to take into consideration this extended span of life beyond the extended span of a working life. And it is the duty of our government to build for a sound future economy, and whenever we have a sound insurance policy in which workers and management participate jointly, and if necessary with the help of government, we're sustaining and doing only justice by the older workers in the United States who are unable any longer to get gainful employment.
I do not preach a doctrine of fear. I submit to the people here and to the millions listening over the air to take out their pencils and figure the cost. There are over 11 million old people now. How much would it take to pay them $100 a month if you reach them all? By 19... Just a minute, Mr. Tobin. By 1980... there will be 22 million people over 65. Take your papers and pencil and figure out what it would cost to pay them $100 a month. My figures are not wrong. They are correct. I want to get some questions from the audience.
All right, I just want to take 1 second. I happen to be quoting from a report that I think Congressman Curtis also quotes from, an actuarial analysis by the Social Security Board, which shows that in 1980, if you have the continued present mortality rates, you'll have 17.9, not 23 million people over 65. If you have the most favorable mortality, it will be 22.8. But in the same report, I just want to tell you that under the most favorable of the 22.8 or 23 million people over 65, even the Social Security Board estimates, the same source he quotes, shows there'll only be 11.5 million beneficiaries.
Thank you.
Mr. Denny, may I ask Mr. Linton a question? He has been neglected, and I think a phase of this matter has been neglected. Here is my question. Many corporations will not employ people over 40 years of age, regardless of ability. Do you not think that if they would employ such people, regardless of age, the problem would largely solve itself?
That's a very interesting question, and it shows the reason why we should have a sound Social Security system, because people, when they then take a job at age 45, have some pension credits already accrued, and therefore there's not the same hesitation on the part of the corporation to take them if they have a pension based on their previous working life. I'm all for a sound Social Security system. There's been a lot of wishful thinking here this evening and not enough, I think, feet on the ground as to what we can really do. But I'm in favor of a system which will give a man some credit so that when he comes to 45 and the company wants to hire him, he'll have something to go on.
Thank you. Gentleman under the balcony.
Mr. Nathan, does a plan submitted by Edward Bellamy in equality eliminate all hardships?
Oh, dear. Well, no, that's out of another book. You're supposed to know the book. I'll take the lady right next to you. The lady right next to you, yes. Question for Mr. Linton.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's for Congressman Curtis.
Congressman Curtis? Oh, yes. Congressman Curtis. Beg your pardon. Yes.
Has not Sweden operated successfully for years a system of adequate care for its old people supported by the government? If Sweden can do this, why can't the United States of America do it?
Mr. Curtis, hasn't Sweden an adequate system, and if so, why can't we do it? I would not want to go into the Swedish plan. I am not qualified to answer that. Mr. Linton can comment on it. Mr. Linton wants to...
Well, just a second. If you would see the size of the Swedish benefits in the terms of what we've been talking tonight, you couldn't find them with a microscope.
All right, the gentleman over the other side.
This is to Mr. Linton. What do you propose as an adequate plan for the care of these displaced persons?
What displaced persons? We're not talking about displaced persons.
As far as displaced persons because of age in industry.
Well, you mean the people over 65?
Yes.
All right. Well, I feel the benefits that are proposed by H.R. 6000, the bill was passed by the House, 333 to 14, has some reasonable figures in it that we can look forward to and feel we can carry as a nation. In other words, I think that's the answer.
Right, thank you. The gentleman in the balcony. Yes?
Jerry Hurwitz, presently of the University of Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky. My question is addressed to Secretary Tobin. Wouldn't it be necessary to have a new pension that can fluctuate with the price index so as to avoid the era of 1939?
My gracious, that's making it more complicated. A flexible pension.
Well, that is approximately what was done in the writing of the bill that was passed by the House. And I would say that in view of the fact that in 1939 we still had about 8 million people unemployed in the nation, that the sights of everyone were pretty low. And the problem of old age have not become as acute as it is at the present time because there has been a substantial increase in the number. And I would rather see, well, to begin with, the best answer to it is that we have increased productivity every year, and it averages out to the point where about every 30 years we double the productivity of the nation, and therefore we should double the living standards of the people. And I'm confident that we do not need to gear it to the cost of living, but if the cost of living goes up, wages will go up in turn, and there should be enough money in the fund as a result of the increased wages to give them higher paying benefits.
Thank you. The lady over here.
This is addressed to Mr. Curtis. I would like to know why, if the government can take the taxpayers' money and send it to other countries to take care of them and provide security, why can't it do the same thing for its own retired workers?
Congressman Curtis? I don't know as to the relevancy of the question. Personally, I feel that the spending of billions abroad has been overdone. I have opposed it. Mr. Tobin's administration has sponsored it. That is no justification for proposing a proposal that would cost so much. You can't give the people anything that you don't first take away from them. There's only 3 ways to pay a pension. Tax the people and take it away from them, sell them bonds and add to the national debt, or printing press money. The people pay the pensions, the government can't give you anything. Thank you. Now, while our speakers prepare their summaries of tonight's discussion, here's a special message of interest to each of you.
While our speakers are getting ready for the summaries of tonight's question, let us remind you that this is one of the 3 spots available on Town Meeting for local sponsors to use this nationally famous program as an advertising medium in your city. America's Town Meeting is what is known as a cooperatively sponsored program and is supported largely by 60 leading business institutions who are able to advertise their own institutions and at the same time help us to reach more people with these free and open discussions of vital problems of the day. Through this cooperative plan, newspapers, banks, building and loan associations, department stores, automobile dealers, and other local business institutions are able to be hosts to town meeting in their communities. The manager of the ABC station to which you are listening will be glad to tell you more about our plan of cooperative sponsorship. If you're a businessman and want to reach this influential town meeting audience with your message, won't you call him the first thing tomorrow morning? And now for the summaries of our discussion, we return you to Mr. Denny.
We hear first from Congressman Curtis. The fact remains a proposal to pay every retired person $100 a month would be very costly. Mr. Tobin disputes how much it would cost. The people of America know their arithmetic. They can figure it. This program comes to a close without Mr. Tobin telling how he would raise that $20 billion a year when his program would mature. Thank you, Congressman Curtis. Mr. Nathan.
Our older people must not be left to depend on handouts. History has proved that they cannot save enough to be independent when their working days are over. The only real security can come through a federal pension for all earners and workers. The cost of replacing the present catch-as-catch can or the relief line methods will be moderate. The increased cost will be moderate and certainly within the financial means of this great country. I'm sure the workers of America will not fail to support their elders.
Thank you, Mr. Nathan. Now, Mr. Linton.
One of the great problems which has been pointed out tonight is the old age assistance program, which is paying free pensions to such large amounts. I think this is going to force a review of our whole pension program, because unless the old age insurance program is adjusted to do something for the present group of retired aged persons, it may be fatally undermined. To make such an adjustment will require us to revise much of our previous thinking on the subject. The problem is complex. It's not an easy one, but it deserves the very best thought that we can bring to bear upon it.
Thank you, Mr. Linton. And now a final word from Secretary Tobin.
We should have in mind that under old age assistance, which is charity, that payments are far greater than payments under old age and survivors insurance. $26 for a single man, $41 for man and wife under the insurance system, and with states like California and Colorado paying straight welfare for a couple, $140. Private industry pensions do not give to worker security. They must stay with the same private company in most cases until they reach the age of 65. Then there is the danger of bankruptcy, the desire to change jobs, and the like. So therefore I say old age and survivors insurance is the basic system that should be used for the protection of the America's older workers.
Thank you, Secretary Tobin, Mr. Nathan, Mr. Linton, and Congressman Curtis. Remember, you can get a copy of tonight's program by sending 10 cents to Town Hall, New York, 18 New York, with a request for the town meeting bulletin of this week. This week we discussed the problem of old age. Next week we'll turn to the problem of youth. Our topic will be, can youth have faith in the future? Our young people's speakers will be Jackie Robinson, second baseman of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Betty Betts, teenage columnist of the Teen Set, Betsy Barton, author of The Long Walk, and Harold Russell, national commander of AMVETS and winner of 2 Academy Awards for his performance in the best years of our lives. And we have a very important announcement to make to you next week about town meeting after January 3rd. So plan to be with us next week and every week at the sound of the crier's bell.
Town meeting next week. Town meeting next week. Can you have faith in the future? Town meeting next week. Everybody listen.
From New York City, Town Hall and the American Broadcasting Company and its affiliated stations have presented America's Town Meeting of the Air, the nation's most popular radio forum. Your producer is Richard Ritter. Your town crier is John Griggs. This is Charles Wood speaking. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
In homes where macaroni and spaghetti are a traditional dish, the overwhelming favorite is La Rosa. La Rosa, America's largest selling macaroni, spaghetti, and egg noodles, presents radio's greatest daytime dramatic program. The La Rosa Hollywood Theater of Stars.
Thank you, and greetings from Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. This is C.P. McGregor speaking. Welcome to the La Rosa Hollywood Theater of Stars, radio's greatest daytime dramatic program. Every day, a complete 30-minute drama from Hollywood. Every day, a famous Hollywood star. Today our star is Ruth Warwick. The title of our play, With All My Love. This is a deeply romantic story of a young husband and wife who must readjust themselves after 3 years' separation. The readjustment is impaired because of the husband's complexes acquired during the separation. There are many moments of great dramatic impact and decisions. Act 1 of With All My Love in a moment. But first, Wendell Niles wants to tell you ladies about something we love and we're sure you'll love.
Yes, indeed, ladies. I want to tell you about something you and your family will love. The spaghetti and macaroni that's really better in flavor, texture, and nutrition. Yes, everybody loves La Rosa. And no wonder, because La Rosa spaghetti and macaroni is 3 ways best. Here's how. 1, La Rosa products are made exclusively from finest semolina. And semolina, as you know, is the pure golden heart of costlier durum wheat. In La Rosa macaroni, you're getting nature's own cream of the crop durum wheat semolina. You'll taste the delicious difference. And point 2, La Rosa's exclusive slow curing holds every bit of that natural semolina goodness. Locks it in so you savor that full, rich flavor. Gives it that delightful, firm yet tender texture. And point 3 is a great new feature. All La Rosa macaroni products are enriched. Now you're sure to get those essential vitamins and minerals that help guard your family's health. Yes, as simple as 1, 2, 3. 1, durum wheat semolina. 2, exclusive La Rosa slow curing. 3, enriched. It all adds up, ladies, to better macaroni, spaghetti, and egg noodles. La Rosa Grade A. Now back to the La Rosa Hollywood Theater of Stars and our producer, C.P. McGregor.
Now, Act 1 of With All My Love, starring Ruth Warwick as Carol Marshall. The scene, one of the less expensive apartment houses in New York's Riverside Drive. Here, with the help of her landlady, Carol Marshall is putting the final touches to the arrangement of her new apartment.
Now, that big chair, Mrs. Carpenter, it has to face towards the window.
I'll help you.
Oh, I've got it. There. Now, David can look out at the river when he sits here after dinner. Oh, and his pipe stand. I must have that.
Oh, here it is.
Mm-hmm, that must be right at his elbow.
He certainly has enough pipes. Oh, they're all new, aren't they?
Yes, I wanted him to have new ones. Now, let's see. Oh, the flowers, they can't be on the table.
But they look lovely there, child.
I know, but, well, David never likes flowers on a table. He says he has to look around them to see me. Kind of sweet of him, isn't it?
All right. We move the flowers. Now what?
Well, the radio phonograph.
I hooked it up.
Oh, good. I bought a record of David's favorite song, sort of a surprise. It's there on the mantel.
Oh, yes. That's an old song, isn't it? 3 or 4 years, at least.
Yes, I know, but you see, my husband's been away for 3 years. South America and the Orient, you know. He left just a month or so after we were married.
Oh, 3 years. No wonder you're anxious to see him. Why, that time must have seemed like forever.
It did at first. Oh, now that it's over, the years just seem like days. Oh, what time is it, Miss Carpenter?
5:45.
Oh, 15 minutes and he'll be here. I can't quite believe it.
I'm surprised you didn't go to the boat to meet him. After all, if he's been abroad...
Oh, no. We agreed to meet in our new home. Oh, do you think he'll like it?
I'm sure he will.
Oh, you've been so grand helping me like this.
You know, happiness like yours is catching, child. I haven't felt so well in...
There he is. Oh, he's early. Oh, Mrs. Carpenter, would you...
I know. Naturally, you want to meet him alone. I'll go down the back way. And Mrs. Marshall.
Yes?
You're going to be very happy here. I'm sure of it.
Thanks.
Bye.
Coming.
Hello, Carol.
Oh, Uncle Charles, I didn't...
You didn't expect me, I know. But you see, I didn't forget that David was coming home today. Well, I thought it might help to have someone on hand.
Oh, but it wouldn't have... Oh, I mean, I've got to be alone to meet him, Uncle Charles.
You sure that's wise?
Very sure.
Well, it may not be easy, you know. David's a sensitive boy, Carol. What this experience may have done to him.
I know you want to help, and I appreciate it, but... Oh, believe me, everything's going to be all right.
It's up to you, Carol, but if later on you change your mind and I can help in any way, you will come to me?
I will, I promise. Now...
I know, I'm going. Good night, Carol.
Good night.
You know, you look like your mother tonight, youngster. You always do when you're really happy. And right now, well, I wish you could have seen the light in your eyes at this moment.
You're sweet.
Oh, incidentally, that new dress, it'll probably show off better for David without your apron.
Oh, I forgot.
Goodbye, youngster. My best to David.
Hello, David.
Hello, Carol.
Come in, darling. Aren't you going to kiss me?
Of course.
David?
I'm sorry I'm late, darling. The train got held up somehow or other.
Oh, that's all right. Dinner's not quite ready anyway.
It's a nice apartment, Carol.
Oh, well, let me show it to you. Here, I'll take your hat.
Oh, yes.
Look, this is your old chair, remember? I put it right here so you could see the river.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's important that I see the river.
Oh, darling, I didn't mean it.
That's all right, dear.
I hope you like these pipes.
Yeah. Yeah, they look fine.
I thought of trying to break one in for you myself, but I wasn't man enough. Oh, I started to show you the apartment. Now, you really should get your first look at this room in the morning. The sun just pours in. Well, anyway, that's what Mrs. Carpenter says.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes, she's the landlady. She helped me get settled. I just moved in today myself.
I see.
Well, and here's the kitchen. I asked Mrs. Carpenter how fat tenants worked in kitchens like these, and she said they didn't. They went hungry and got thin. Well, anyway, it was funny the way she said it. Does the place seem like home to you?
It might help if there were bars across the windows.
David.
Oh, Carol, I want to talk to you, dear.
All right, darling, but later. Dinner's almost ready now. Oh, I almost forgot. I have a surprise for you.
But, Carol,
Listen, David. Our song. You call it that, remember?
Did you suppose I'd forgotten?
Isn't it funny how crazy things can seem when you look back at them? That was our first date. Remember the little man with the violin? How cute he was. After that, I don't think we ever went dancing if you didn't get the orchestra to play that just for us.
What about the wedding? I even cheated you out of Lohengrin because of it.
Mm-hmm.
What a wedding. No guests, no veil, no orange blossoms. Just you and I and the minister standing there in the church.
And with two witnesses we'd never even seen before. And up in the loft, the assistant organist trying to play it for us on the chimes. Oh, David.
Why are we pretending, Carol?
Pretending?
Yes, I shouldn't have come here. If you don't realize that, I do.
Oh, darling, what do you mean?
You've been working so that you wouldn't have time to think. Well, I haven't, darling. I've had 3 years of thinking, and I've seen what's true. There's no life for you with a murderer for a husband.
You're not a murderer.
I killed a man.
It was an accident.
I killed him. The prosecution said so, and they were right.
Darling, listen. Oh, somehow you've let it get mixed up in your mind. You were driving too fast, yes, but...
And I'd been drinking. We can't forget that.
Oh, but that was hours before the accident.
And his wife. She looked at him lying there on the road, and she screamed at me. You killed him.
Oh, she was hysterical, David. You can't think of that now. Whatever wrong you may have done, you paid for it. You've served 3 years. You have a right to start again. You have a right to forget.
I can't forget, darling. I've tried, and I...
David, you're crying.
Carol, when I came in just now, I didn't kiss you, not at first, because all of a sudden I knew that everything was changed.
Not between us. Nothing can change that.
It can. It has, darling. We're different people. No, I'm different. What's happened has made me different.
But that isn't any...
You can't stay married to a man who's a murderer.
Please, Please don't say such things. Now, David, listen to me. I never came to see you up there, not once. And that wasn't very easy. But you said you wanted it that way.
It had to be that way.
But then, when it was over, I thought we'd try to treat it as if it had never happened. That was just a crazy idea. Naturally, you'd feel strange at first. You've been alone too much.
Carol, I've got to go away.
Go away? Oh, no, you can't. This is where you belong. Oh, well, as for the way you feel about us, that doesn't matter, darling. I'll stay with Mrs. Carpenter in her apartment, but I've got to be near you to help you.
It's no use, Carol. There's no future for you with me, dear.
And there's no future for me without you, David. Oh, there must be some way for you to forget. And we've got to find it. It's the only chance for either of us.
The curtain falls on Act One of With All My Love, starring Ruth Warwick. Our lovely star and our distinguished cast of La Rosa radio players return for Act Two shortly. And speaking of beautiful Ruth Warwick and love, Wendell, I have a riddle for you and all the ladies listening. What is it that everybody loves?
That's easy, CP. The answer is our famous slogan, Everybody Loves La Rosa. And I'd like Ruth Warwick and every lady listening to prove it by serving a wonderfully delicious La Rosa dish the whole family will love. It's La Rosa macaroni served with a savory meat sauce. Here's all you do. Combine some leftover meat with your favorite tomato sauce, plus onions and seasoning, and pour it over a steaming platter of those delightful La Rosa macaroni shells. Here's a grand-looking, satisfying dish that's so easy to make, so inexpensive, so heavenly delicious. Wait until you hear the family rave over that luscious La Rosa flavor. Try this delightful La Rosa dish, or any one of dozens of other nutritious La Rosa meals made with meats and cheese, chicken and fish, or with all sorts of delicious sauces. Plan a La Rosa treat for your family tonight, or tomorrow, sure. Ask your grocer for La Rosa. That's L-A, capital R-O-S-A, La Rosa elbow macaroni or spaghetti, or those fluffy golden La Rosa egg noodles. Everybody loves La Rosa. 3 ways best La Rosa. 1, durum wheat semolina. 2, exclusive La Rosa slow curing. 3, enriched for extra nutrition. It costs no more, so be sure you get La Rosa. And remember, it's a full pound.
Now, Act Two of With All My Love, starring Ruth Warwick as Carol Marshall.
It will be 3 weeks tomorrow since the night David came home, but almost nothing seems changed. The idea that he's a murderer is stronger than ever in David's mind. He's built walls around himself higher than those of any prison. If only tomorrow will make a difference. Helen King's giving a dinner party, and some of our old friends will be there. David's agreed to go, and it doesn't change his mind.
Oh, come on, guess again.
Are you a comedian?
Yes, Carol, I am.
Oh, David, I think we've got him.
Oh, it's a cinch, darling. But wait a minute, let me take a crack at him. Are you a very funny radio comedian?
Well, some people would say yes, but there's a guy named Fred Allen who'd probably...
Now, Jack Benny.
Oh, that was swell. Let's start again.
David, you are having fun tonight, aren't you?
Oh, swell, darling.
Oh, let's not play 20 questions anymore. Let's start another game.
Well, how about indications?
Indications?
Oh, the game, David, you know, like charades. You act out slogans and quotations.
Oh, yes. Say, how about coffee pot?
I know a marvelous game for
What's that, Jane?
murder. Carol, I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
It's all right. It's late, and David, I'd better be going anyway.
No, Carol, we'll stay.
Yes, and we'll play murder.
David, you're going to make it.
I'll take that trick with the ace and give you the last one.
David, a little slam. That was wonderful.
Hey, Mrs. Marshall, how about swapping partners?
Well, I like that.
Oh, think nothing of it, Mrs. Carpenter. I was just lucky.
Lucky? Listen, anybody who could make a small slam on a hand like that could get away with murder.
He said, Uncle Charles. Well, I do need it now.
I know. Well, I'm no psychologist, but from all you've told me, David has an obsession about this thing. Even a casual mention of death and murder seems like a personal accusation.
Yes, and I'm afraid for him. Now he's determined to go away. Uncle Charles, what can I do?
How about going with him? Some place where there are no associations.
But he doesn't want me with him.
I'm not so sure. You've never talked to David about this guilt complex of his, have you?
Naturally not. I thought I should avoid it.
But you're wrong. The thing you must do is encourage David to put his feelings into words, and then show him that they are just words and not reality.
Oh, well, you're right, of course. You're right.
Well, then it's just a matter of where to go.
David always liked the mountains. I know. The McIntyre cabin on Star Lake. It's miles from any place.
That should be perfect.
I'm sure they'd let us use it. They're not up there themselves this year. Oh, but I can't tell David that. I'll have to tell him that they are there and want us to join them.
But why?
Well, there's one thing you don't understand, Uncle Charles. You see, this barrier in David's mind even closes me out. I doubt that he'd go if he thought we were going to be alone.
Oh, Carol, child.
It's all right.
You really love him, don't you, Carol?
Mm-hmm. I do. That's why I'm going to find a way to bring him back to me.
Hello, Johnny. Jeanette. Hello. Oh, gee, that's funny. Maybe they misunderstood and drove into the village to meet us.
No, they didn't, David. The McIntyres aren't up here.
But you said...
I know I did, dear. I lied because I was afraid you might not have come. Oh, don't be angry, David, please. This is so important for you to get completely away. We can have fun together, darling. We can hike and hunt and... Oh, you love to swim so. Well, you can practically window.
You're trying to say that up here we can forget.
No, David. From now on, we stop trying to forget. I've been wrong, and I know it. We both have. Beginning today, we're going to talk things out.
We can.
Oh, we can, and we will. That's the one way we can ever hope to break down the wall between us, David. The only way. Uncle Charles was so right. Facing the problem is the only answer. David and I talked for hours last night, and I finally realized that there were two convictions in his mind that made him feel guilty. The first is that he broke a divine law by taking a human life. Second, that he was the cause of lifelong grief to Mrs. Parker, the widow of the man killed in the accident. I still don't know what to do about the first fixation, but I've thought of a possible answer to the second. I wrote a letter this morning to... David, I've got something.
Oh, it's a strike. Quick, honey, quick, reel it in. Get the hook past in his mouth.
But I can't. The reel's stuck. Oh, here, you do it.
Hey, look out, look out.
Oh, the fish.
Oh, he's gone. Never mind the fish. Look, you be careful. A girl who can't swim has no business falling in a lake as deep as this one.
I'm afraid you're right.
Here's your rod.
Thanks. David.
Huh?
When I drove into the village this morning, I got a letter. I want to read it to you.
Yes?
It's from Mrs. Parker.
Mrs. Parker?
Listen, David. Listen to what she says. My dear Mrs. Marshall, I won't pretend this is an easy letter to write. It's not. But I do want to help with your problem. First of all, you can tell your husband that as I look back now, I realized George was at least partly responsible for the accident. He was driving too fast himself. As for my having accused your husband of murder, I'm sure you realize how hysteria can lead one to say such things. If my forgiveness means anything to Mr. Marshall, he most certainly has it. I could never say that I don't miss George, but it seems that life has a way of adjusting itself. I have found happiness again myself, and my only wish is that you and your husband will do the same. Very sincerely.
You wrote to her.
Of course I did. Oh, don't you see, dear, after this letter you can't go on accusing yourself of ruining her life. She says herself that you haven't.
And suppose that's true. There's still one thing that neither of us can never wipe out. I took a human life, Carol. There's no forgiveness for that, no recompense. And we may as well admit, darling, there never can be.
I know the best game of all to play. It's murder.
I didn't kiss you when I came in just now. We're different people.
You've got to talk it out with him, Carol.
I've taken a life. That's something neither of us can wipe out.
You're his one hope, Carol. Perhaps his only hope.
Careful, Carol. Careful in the boat. A girl who can't swim has no business falling in a lake as deep as this one.
I can't swim.
A girl who can't swim.
I can't swim.
A girl who can't swim. A girl who can't swim. A girl who can't swim.
It's early morning. A dream woke me up just a moment ago. No, perhaps it was more than a dream. Anyway, I think now I see the answer for David and for me. As lake as deep as this one.
David? David? Are you awake? Hello, in the cabin there. David?
Carol? Carol, what are you doing in that boat? Sit down.
I'm going for a swim.
Carol!
I've always heard that was the best way to learn. Dive in where it's deep and swim to shore. So here goes.
No, wait! Carol!
Carol, I flew up at once, as soon as David wired.
Oh, you needn't have. I'm all right now. I just tried to drink the whole lake at one gulp, that's all.
David told me. He said you were out completely by the time he got you. Carol, how did this happen? You didn't...
Where's David?
Well, he said he'd bring my bags from the car.
Uncle Charles, you said I might find the solution up here. I think I have. But you mustn't ever tell him that I...
Oh. Your things are in your room, Uncle Charles.
Oh, thank you.
And incidentally, aren't you anxious to start unpacking?
What? That's fine treatment for a guest.
Oh, you're not a guest, you're a relative. And I want to talk to my wife.
Well, never let it be said that I couldn't take a hint.
David, what hospitality.
Oh, never mind him. How do you feel?
Wonderful.
Good. Then we're leaving tomorrow, back to town. I've got to get back to work.
Oh, David, darling.
Hello, Mrs. Marshall. Oh, gee, you gave me an awful scare.
Oh, it's so good to be in your arms again.
It's over, Carol.
Is it, David? Now can you really forget?
No, but I can see things as they are. And it came to me as I was driving in to meet Uncle Charles. Suppose a person had taken a life in an accident as I did. Well, then if that same person saved a life, wouldn't that sort of even things?
Well, of course it would.
You know, I'm surprised you didn't figure it out and tell me about it. Didn't you realize it?
No, David, I didn't, but... Well, then, I'm just a woman, and women never seem to see things quite as clearly as the men they love.
And so the curtain falls on the second act of With All My Love. Our star, Ruth Warwick, will be back to our La Rosa microphone in just a moment.
In homes where macaroni and spaghetti are a traditional dish, the overwhelming favorite is La Rosa. La Rosa, America's largest selling macaroni, spaghetti, and egg noodles. Only La Rosa offers all three great features. 1, durum wheat semolina. 2, exclusive La Rosa slow curing. 3 enriched for extra nutrition. And you taste the delicious difference. Serve your family La Rosa Grade A macaroni tonight. Get the brand with a big red rose on each box. Get La Rosa. And remember, it's a full pound. Now here's our star, Ruth Warwick, and our producer.
That was a fine job, Ruth. How does it feel to be back in radio?
Just like home, C.P. Radio was my profession before I went into pictures, you know, and I love it.
Yes, Ruth. Actually, it was during a press party for radio people, wasn't it, when you got your first chance at pictures?
That's right. It was at a party given for Orson Welles in New York. I met him that night. Screen test was arranged, and he put me in Citizen Kane.
And a neat double play that was, Ruth. An important part for you in one of the most talked-of pictures ever to be made. And at the same time, a tribute to Mr. Wells for his excellent foresight. And after your arrival in New York, you just decided to stay and enjoy the adventures of the big city.
That's right. But then after all, being a direct descendant of Daniel Boone, adventure's in my blood.
Well, it would seem that your career has been one grand adventure, and one which has just begun. But your fine talents as a violinist and a pianist are going to waste. Aren't you going to pursue that line of your career anymore?
Only as a hobby. You see, I like being an actress. Well, thanks, C.P., for everything. It was fun doing the show for you, and my compliments to you and the sponsor for a really fine product.
Thank you, Ruth, for the compliment on behalf of both La Rosa, our sponsor, and myself. And now, before you leave, and ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about tomorrow's play and star. Lovely Margot will be our star, and the play title, Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary. This is a bright, romantic story of a young businesswoman who believes she has a sure way to distract the attentions of wolves until she meets Super Wolf Jeff Smith. Don't miss it. So until tomorrow, then, thanks for listening, and cheerio from Hollywood.
Listen every weekday to radio's greatest daytime dramatic program. Listen to the La Rosa Hollywood Theater of Stars. Every day a complete 30-minute drama from Hollywood. Every day a famous Hollywood star. Brought to you Monday through Friday by V. La Rosa and Sons, makers of La Rosa Grade A, America's largest selling macaroni, spaghetti, and egg noodles. In homes where macaroni and spaghetti are a traditional dish, the overwhelming favorite is La Rosa. This program came to you transcribed direct from Hollywood. Your announcer is Wendell Niles. Say, Mother, here's how you can add interesting variety to children's meals. Serve La Rosa enriched pastina. Its mild, delightful flavor blends perfectly with soups, meats, vegetables, and dairy dishes. There's a wonderful pastina treat for every meal in the new La Rosa cookbook entitled 51 Pastina Recipes. It features many delicious, quick, and easy recipes, especially prepared to delight your child. For your free cookbook, write La Rosa in care of this station. Get La Rosa Enriched Pastina today. Don't just say pastina. Say La Rosa Enriched Pastina.
Now, as gunshots echo across the wind-swept, snow-covered reaches of the wild Northwest, Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice, the breakfast cereal shot from guns, present the challenge of the Yukon. It's Yukon King, swiftest and strongest lead dog of the Northwest, blazing the trail for Sergeant Preston of the Northwest Mounted Police in his relentless pursuit of lawbreakers. On King! On, you huskies! Gold discovered in the Yukon. A stampede to the Klondike in the wild race for riches. Back to the days of the gold rush. With Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice, bringing you the adventures of Sergeant Preston and his wonder dog, Yukon King, as they meet the challenge of the Yukon. You fellas and girls know a good food when you taste one. And here's what's so good about Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice. They're made from only the premium grains of wheat or rice. And these choice select grains are shot from guns, actually exploded up to 8 times normal size to make them bigger and better tasting. Yes, they're crisp, tender, delicious. Just see how good they taste tomorrow morning. Treat yourself to Quaker puffed rice or Quaker puffed wheat. Skagway, in American territory, was the principal port of entry to the Yukon during the gold rush, and it was as wild and lawless a town as was ever found in the Old West. Sergeant Preston drove down there from White Pass one afternoon in December, and after he had unharnessed his team and turned the dogs into the run in back of the Skagway Inn, he made some inquiries of the proprietor.
Who's the town marshal this week, Joe?
Do you mean to say you haven't heard the news, Sergeant?
No, what is it, another murder?
I should say not. Why, there was a little gunfight outside the 303 last night, but everybody who was in it is in jail today.
Well, that's practically unbelievable. None of Sophie Smith's men could have been involved.
Oh, you're wrong, Sergeant. They were.
And Sophie's letting them stay in jail?
He can't do a thing about it. This town's under martial law, Sergeant.
Martial law?
Well, I guess you could call it that. Anyway, we got a detachment of Marines acting as our police department. 20 of them. They landed a week ago.
Oh, that's good news.
Oh, fine boys. I sure hope none of them get killed.
From what I've heard about your Marines, they take care of themselves.
But only 20 of them. This town could use 200.
Well, I guess my business is with them, Joe. Where are they? Or are they making their headquarters?
Well, they built themselves a log barracks at the far edge of town.
Toward White Pass?
No, the other side, toward Chilkoot.
Oh. Who's in command?
There's a young fella named Vance, Captain Vance.
I'll have a talk with him right away. See you later, Joe.
Come on, King.
Captain Vance?
That's right. Say, isn't that a Northwest mounted uniform you're wearing under your parka?
Yes, Captain. Sergeant Preston.
Glad to meet you, Sergeant. You've been up here long?
About a year now.
Since the very beginning of the rush, huh?
Yes.
Well, they tell me you manage to keep pretty good order in the territory.
Most of the time we do.
I'd like to know how you manage it. This is the meanest collection of human beings I've ever run into. Why, if I were to do my job right here, I'd have to jail half the population. What happens when they cross the border? How do you scare them into behaving themselves?
Well, we don't have as big a problem as you do, Captain. You see, we don't let the known troublemakers cross the border. We send them right back to you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. But, as a matter of fact, I'd like to relieve you of one of them, if he's in town, that is.
Why, who's that?
Name's Scar Bradford.
I haven't heard of him yet.
About a week ago, he shot and robbed a miner named Gordon outside of Whitehorse. He took his dogs and sled, and on the sled, there was a fortune in gold.
A fortune, huh?
Yes. Gordon was on his way out of the territory with it. He didn't die. Traveler found him and brought him into Whitehorse. It was 3 days before he was able to talk enough to give me the details for all of it. There's no doubt Scarf Bradford's the man we're after.
And he's here in Skagway?
I think it's probable, Captain. Remember the blizzard day before yesterday?
I sure do.
I think he managed to slip through Chilkoot Pass during it.
Oh. Huh? What's he look like?
6 feet tall, 200 pounds, black hair, black beard, scar over his right eye.
And you want us to arrest him?
Yes. Should be in your authority to grant extradition so I can take him back to Whitehorse for trial.
It is. You can have him if you want him. If we can find him for you.
Well, he'll be trying to get back to the States. I'd suggest checking with any steamers that are ready to leave.
The Portland and the Golden Lady are in port, but they're not sailing for another week. Then there's a schooner anchored out in the harbor. But I think it's stuck here.
Stuck?
Most of the crew deserted. The captain was in here yesterday. Wanted his men found and returned to the ship.
You can't do that, can you?
Certainly not. But this Bradford's different. Do you know him when you see him, Sergeant?
Yes, I do.
Well, why don't you try to find him yourself? You know Skagway better than I or my men. You find him and we'll arrest him.
All right, Captain.
We'll be ready to lend you a hand whenever you say so.
I hope that'll be tonight.
So do I. Good luck.
Thanks, Captain. Come on, King.
The sergeant returned to the inn, and after supper he went to his room and changed from his uniform into a check shirt and corduroy trousers. King watched him curiously.
What's the matter, boy? Don't you like this outfit? Well, I'll tell you why I'm wearing it, King. You see, I have no authority here, and I can't make people answer my questions. But if they think I'm just another prospector, they'll feel more like talking, especially around the 303 and the waterfront cafes. Oh, you don't like them, do you, fellow? All that smoke and noise. Well, there's no reason why you have to come along with me. I'll put you out on the run with the rest of the team, and you can go to sleep early tonight, King. Maybe we'll be starting back for Whitehorse the first thing in the morning.
After the sergeant had turned King into the run, he started on a round of the uproarious Skagway cafes. Scar Bradford was not at the 303, and no one there had seen him. Then the sergeant went down to the waterfront. He talked with the captains of the Portland and the Golden Lady, but Scar hadn't tried to book passage with them. He was heading for one of the waterfront cafes when he saw two burly seamen tying up a dinghy.
Hello.
Hello yourself.
You from the schooner?
What about it?
Oh, just wondering. Your captain managed to sign on a new crew yet?
Hey, you know a lot about our business, don't you? Maybe you'd like a job.
No, thanks. I have one.
Oh, come on. Think about it a little. Have a drink with me and push.
No, thanks.
So what do you want to stay around this icebox for? We're heading for the South Seas.
Oh, that sounds interesting. You carrying any passengers?
On the Northern Star?
You carried them from San Francisco, didn't you?
The skipper had enough of it.
The sergeant was watching the second sailor. His right hand was thrust deep in the pocket of his pea jacket, and from the expression on the two men's faces, he knew he was in for trouble. He took a step backward.
Get him, boy!
Butch's hand came out of his pocket. He had a belaying pin in it, but the sergeant ducked aside as the sailor tried to bring it down on his head. He lashed out with a right and caught the man on the jaw. Butch was staggered, but the other sailor had moved around in back of the sergeant and grabbed his arms. The sergeant wrenched himself free and landed another right. Two men closed in on him. He kept them at arm's length with his fists, left and right, and then right and left again. He edged back farther from the dock's edge. Then, as he drove home another blow, his foot slipped on a patch of ice. For a second, he was off balance, and in that second, the belaying pin crashed down.
Hey, good work, Butch. I'll take his head and take his feet.
Yeah. That's the schooner, huh?
Sure. Now we come back for some more. $100 a piece is paying. That does it. Hey, you roll.
Okay, Mick.
It was half an hour later that the sergeant regained consciousness. His head ached. He started to raise his hand to it and then realized his hands were tied behind his back. His ankles were tied together as well. From the motion, he could tell that he was on board a ship. He looked around. There was a man lying on the rough planks a few feet away from him. He, too, was bound.
Well, you feeling better?
I guess so.
What'd they do? Crack you over the head?
Yes.
I made the mistake of taking a drink with Nick and Butch earlier tonight. They put some knockout drops in it.
Where are we?
Brig in the Northern Star. In a smelly hole. My name's Yank. What's yours?
Preston.
Looks as if we're shipping together.
That the idea?
Sure. They'll keep us tied up here until they clear the harbor. And we'll have to work or starve. I will say that limey's grub is pretty fair.
You know this ship?
Yeah. Came down from Frisco with it.
And then you deserted?
No, I was only signed on as an extra hand from Frisco to Skagway. Got paid off and went ashore. But next day, all the regular crew did the same thing. Went ashore and didn't come back. All but Nick and Butch and Limey. Nick's the mink. Ornery.
Redhead?
Yeah.
I agree. So now they're shanghaiing a crew.
Yeah.
Any idea where they're heading?
Well, Nick tried to talk me into signing on before he fixed up my drink. Said they were sailing for Tahiti.
Huh?
Whether there's any truth in it or not, I don't know.
That's a long trip.
Probably never make it. I asked him what the idea was. He said some bonanza millionaire had chartered the hulk. taking a pleasure trip on the Northern Star. Is the man crazy? Do you lose your mind when you make $1 million? Of course, it may have been nothing but Nick's talk.
I wonder.
Well, somebody coming in.
Another recruit, perhaps.
Nick and Butch have made a fast trip if it is.
Say, where's my parka?
Nick took it. He liked it.
Oh.
No, it isn't Nick. It's Skipper.
Well, Yank, you want to go to work?
No, I want to be put ashore.
Not a chance. You know it. Might as well sign on.
Not me.
When are we sailing, Skipper?
When you address me, mister, you call me sir. Is that understood?
Aye, sir.
Have you ever sailed before?
No, but it sounds like a good idea. If signing on means I have the freedom of the ship, why not? It's better than lying here.
Now you're talking sense.
Just a minute, Nate.
Huh?
Hold your lantern closer to that man's face.
What'd you say, Scar?
Hold your lantern closer to his face.
All right.
That's it.
You know him?
Yeah. Your men have made a big mistake. This is Sergeant Preston of the Northwest Mounted Police. Might be a good idea to drop him overboard, just the way he is, bound hand and foot.
We'll continue our adventure in just a moment. Boy, oh boy, only 3 more days until Christmas. Huh. Wonder who that is. Why, it's our friend the postman. How are you?
Fine, young fella.
I'll bet you're mighty busy delivering Christmas packages these days.
Sure am. I tell you, folks are smart to get theirs in the mail early.
Got anything for me?
well, no, not exactly. Just this here.
Why, of all things, it's a package of Quaker puffed wheat and a package of Quaker puffed rice.
That's right.
Well, what gives?
I tell you, I used to eat a big bowl full of Quaker puffed wheat or Quaker puffed rice every morning.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And I used to pour on the old milk or cream and top it off with fruit.
Yes?
You know, a postman like me works pretty hard. On your feet all day. You need a good breakfast.
Well, that's right. Everyone does. And Quaker puffed wheat or Quaker puffed rice furnish extra food values of restored natural grain amounts of vitamin B1, niacin, and iron.
Oh, man, it tastes well, too.
But look, a moment ago, you said you used to eat either Quaker puffed wheat or Quaker puffed rice every morning.
Well, sir, now I got a better idea.
Oh?
I take a big bowl, pour some Quaker puffed rice into it until it's half full. Then fill it up the rest of the way with Quaker puffed wheat.
I get it. Sort of half and half, huh?
Sure. That way I enjoy both kinds together, right at the same time, every morning.
Well, that's a fine idea. Fellas and girls, just try it tomorrow morning. And don't forget, Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice are shot from guns to make 'em crisp and tender. Yes, these king-size premium grains are actually exploded up to 8 times normal size to make them bigger and better tasting. Ask Mom right now to order big red and blue packages of delicious Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice. Shot from guns. Now to continue. For a moment after Scar Bradford had identified Sergeant Preston and suggested that he be dropped overboard, the skipper stared into the sergeant's face. Then he turned to Scar.
We'll talk it over in my cabin. Come on, Scar.
Sergeant Preston, eh?
That's right, Yank.
Nick sure did make a mistake.
Seems to me I'm the one who did that. I should have been more careful of my footing.
Who's the guy with the scar?
Scar Bradford. Wanted for robbery and attempted murder.
Yeah? So he's the Bonanza millionaire. No wonder he wants to go to Tahiti instead of Frisco. How much did he steal?
$100,000.
Wow. Shoot somebody?
Yes.
If he tries murder once, he won't mind trying it again.
I've been thinking of that.
You're in a spot, Sergeant.
Sorry to say this, but so are you, Yank. If they get away with murder, they'll have to get rid of you, too. I don't think the skipper could expect much cooperation from you.
He sure couldn't. What do you suppose they're doing?
Talking it over.
You're a big man, Sergeant. The two of them would have a tough time carrying you up the companionway to the deck. They might wait till Nick and Butch got back.
I was hoping that.
What are you doing?
When the skipper held the lantern close, I noticed a spike sticking out of the bulkhead over here to my left. I might be able to saw through these ropes on my wrist.
Find it?
Yes. I'll try it anyway. It'll take time.
King had burrowed into the snow and fallen into a light sleep. Suddenly, although he had heard no sound, he was wide awake. He jumped to his feet and shook the snow from his back. Then he began to pace back and forth in the run. He stopped at the far end of the run, gauging the height of the fence. He ran and jumped. A moment of scrambling at the top, and he was over. He dropped to the ground and ran toward the center of town. For the next 15 minutes, he ran up and down the main street, looking for his master. It was down near the waterfront that he saw his first familiar face, the man in uniform the sergeant had talked to that afternoon. Captain Vance and a Marine corporal were running toward one of the waterfront cafes, where loud voices announced that a fight was in progress. King followed close at the captain's heels, and when he and the corporal entered the cafe, King slipped in behind them.
All right, stand aside. Let us through. I'll teach you to mess around with my drink. Watch him, Butch. Grab him.
Nick was slugging it out with a husky young sailor.
All right. Break it up. You're both going to jail. No, not me, Captain. Both of you. Will you listen to what this lug tried to do? I'll listen. What's your story? He poured something in my drink. What? Water? No!
That's right, Captain. It was nothing but water. I figured he'd had a little too much.
Oh, here's the drink right here. You drink it if it was only water you poured in. That's fair enough. Go ahead.
Well,
Yeah, he won't do it. He was trying to drug me.
What?
Let me tell you about it, Captain.
All right.
These two, Nick and Butch, they're from the schooner Northern Star. They lost their crew, and they're trying to raise another one. They tried to talk me into signing on, a trip to Tahiti with a $100 bonus. I wouldn't have any part of their floating graveyard, so out come the knockout drops. If I'd have drunk that whiskey, I'd have passed out in 5 minutes. And they'd have hauled me aboard their dirty hull.
That's right.
Let me smell that drink. Here. What about it, Nick?
Captain, this man belongs to our crew.
That's a lie. I just worked for my passage from Frisco here.
What's your name?
Tim Morgan.
I'm going to have a talk with your skipper, Nick. There'll be no Shanghaiing and Skagway. Hey, the dog's got a hold of my parka. Make him let go.
King had been sniffing at the parka Nick was wearing. There was no doubt in the dog's mind that it belonged to his master. But where was the sergeant?
Get away, you...
King was confused. The only thing he could think of was to try and get back his master's property. He set his teeth firmly in the bottom of the parka and tried to pull it off Nick's shoulders.
Pry his jaws loose.
Wait a minute. I know this dog. He belongs to Sergeant Preston of the Northwest Mounted. And I remember that parka. The sergeant was wearing it this afternoon.
Yeah, you're wrong, Captain. I bought this from a prospector who was going back to the States just this afternoon. Isn't that right, boy?
Yeah, that's right. Look at that dog. He knows who the parka belongs to. How did you get it?
I told you.
I want the truth.
I got it from a prospector. I don't know where he got it this afternoon.
What time?
Oh, about 4 o'clock.
The sergeant was wearing it at 5. Wait a minute. Could he have gone out to your ship and... Nick, what's your big hurry in rounding up a crew?
There's no special hurry.
Sailing for Tahiti, you said, Tim? That's what Nick said. With one passenger on board, huh, Nick?
No.
We'll see. Handcuff Nick and Butch Corporal.
Hey,
let go of the parka, boy. We're going to find the sergeant. All right, the rest of you get back to what you were doing.
In the brig aboard the Northern Star, the sergeant continued to work at the rope binding his wrists.
How's it coming, Sergeant?
2 strands of giving weight. Slow work.
I figure they've been gone nearly half an hour.
About.
You do manage it, we'll be in good shape.
If.
There's nothing in here to use as a weapon. We can grab them as soon as they step inside the room.
Rope's almost through.
Hold it.
What's the matter?
Someone coming in.
No sense in giving up now.
Hang the lantern on that nail by the door. That is up the companionway.
Where? Oh, yeah, I see it.
The skipper and Scar walked into the brig. The rope around the sergeant's wrist was almost ready to give way, but his last hope faded when he saw the belaying pin in the skipper's hand. As the skipper brought it down, the sergeant managed to swing his head aside at the last moment, and it only hit him a glancing blow. But he pretended to lose consciousness.
All right, now it should be easy.
You dirty rats.
You're next, Yank. Come on, Scar, give me a hand.
Right, Skipper.
The skipper and Scar struggled out of the brig, carrying the still form of the sergeant. He tested the rope and knew that one more violent effort would part the last strands. He waited until the top of the companionway was reached. And then he wrenched his hands free of the rope.
Look out! He's got his hands free.
The sergeant kicked out with his feet, and the skipper was knocked backwards down the companionway. Unable to stand, the sergeant wrestled Scar to the deck. He knew that he must finish Scar off quickly if he were to have time to untie the ropes around his ankles before the skipper joined in the fight. But Scar was warding off his blows and trying desperately to break his hold. The sergeant heard steps on the companionway, and as he turned to meet the skipper, Scar jumped to his feet. His hobnail boot hit the sergeant just behind the ear.
He's out now for sure.
Grab hold.
Wait till I catch my breath.
We'll do that later.
When it comes to Yank, be sure you knock him out.
We'll take care of this one, then take care of Yank later.
Okay.
Come on, take his feet.
Okay.
Pitch him overboard.
Hold that.
Higher. Higher. Now. Heave.
The shock of the ice-cold water brought the sergeant to. He kicked desperately with his feet and fought his way to the surface. The cold cut into his skin like a knife. He could see the lights of the waterfront hundreds of yards away, and with his heavy shoes and clothing, it was costing him a terrible effort to merely keep his head above water. But the shore was his only chance, and he struck out toward it. A few strokes and his strength started to go. A few more, and he knew he would be finished. At first, he couldn't believe his ears. He heard a dog barking. It was King.
Big fella, here, boy.
A moment later, King was swimming beside him. He reached out and grabbed hold of his harness.
How are you, too?
Another moment, and a boat loomed alongside.
That's enough. Help me, Corporal. Get it. I got it. Get the other side, quick. All right.
Captain Vance leaned over the side and pulled him aboard.
Now the dog. Yeah.
He lay still, gasping for breath, as King was pulled aboard. The sergeant recognized Nick and Butch at the oars. There was a Marine corporal in the bow covering them with a gun. The captain put a parka around the sergeant. The sergeant's own parka.
Where'd you get this?
Nick was wearing it. I recognized it after King tried to pull it off him.
How'd you and King get together?
He was evidently looking for you and found me instead. What happened to...
I'll tell you all about it later. You see anyone on the deck of the schooner?
No.
The skipper and Scar Bradford, they must have gone below to get Yank.
Yank?
Sailor, friend of mine. We're going to throw him overboard, too. Hurry, Captain.
Yank, you and Buck start rowing. Take us alongside your ladder.
You can't blame us for this. We didn't have any part in it.
Row.
Oh, all right.
As Nick rowed, the captain cut the ropes on the sergeant's leash. The small boat scraped against the side of the ship.
There's no ladder.
Do you have an extra gun, Captain?
You better stay here.
If you don't mind, I'd like to be in on the finish.
Right. Give him your gun, Corporal. You stay here and watch Nick and Butch. Right.
Let's go, Captain.
All right.
There's the companionway that leads to the brig.
Someone's coming up.
Yes, they've got Yank.
All right, now, come on. Get a hold there.
That's far enough, Skipper.
He's Scar.
There's a sailor down on the deck. Skipper, you and Scar, stick up your hands. You're under arrest. I haven't figured out all the charges against you, but between Canada and the United States, you'll probably spend the rest of your lives in jail.
Can I borrow your knife, Captain, to cut these ropes on Yank?
Oh, sure. Here.
Thanks.
Get moving, you two. Over the side. Step easy into that boat. We're carrying a full cargo of crooks.
I'm glad to see you again, Sergeant.
Glad to see you, Yank. Oh, what's so funny?
I was just thinking. Saved by the United States Marines and the Northwest Mounted Police.
Oh.
You know, I can't help feeling like a pretty important guy. Hey, what's that I hear? A dog?
Yes, it's my dog, King. He knew I was in trouble somehow. He put the captain on my trail. I can't exactly figure it, but he surely had a hand in this rescue.
He's still worried about you.
Yes, Yank. So he can't understand why I'm not coming down the ladder with the others. Quiet, King. I'm all right, boy. The captain's arrested the skipper and Scar, and they're going to jail, along with Nick and Butch. And that means this case is closed.
In just a moment, Sergeant Preston will give you a preview of Friday's adventure. Going, gone. That's the way Quaker Puffed Wheat or Quaker Puffed Rice disappears at breakfast time. These ready-to-serve cereals hit the spot from first to last delicious spoonful. Yes, wheat or rice shot from guns is exploded up to 8 times normal size to make it crisp and tender. And they hit the mark for nourishment, too. Delicious Quaker Puffed Wheat and Rice give you added food values of restored natural grain amounts of vitamin B1, niacin, and iron. Tomorrow morning, fill a bowl with Quaker Puffed Wheat or Quaker Puffed Rice. Top with fruit, like, say, sliced bananas. Add milk or cream and sugar. Talk about swell tasting. Say, just you watch it disappear, but fast. Remember, delicious, nourishing Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice come in the big red and blue packages. They're never sold in bags or bulk. Listen Friday when Sergeant Preston and Yukon King meet the challenge of the Yukon in the case of the Sergeant's Present.
When King and I hit the trail for Pierre Reynaud's cabin in the middle of a blizzard, we knew the ridge would be dangerous. But we wanted to pick up a present for little Beth Milford and make sure she had a Merry Christmas. We didn't leave the little girl at the roadhouse alone, of course. Her mother and father were with her. But we'd never have left at all if we'd known the menace that would strike while we were gone.
Be sure to hear this exciting adventure Friday. These radio dramas, a feature of the Challenge of the Yukon Incorporated, are created and produced by George W. Trendle, directed by Fred Flowerday, and edited by Fran Stryker. The part of Sergeant Preston is played by Paul Sutton. They are brought to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at this same time by Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice, the breakfast cereal shot from guns. Remember, for delicious hot breakfast, enjoy Quaker Oats. The giant of the cereals is Quaker Oats. Delicious, nutritious, makes you feel ambitious. The giant of the cereals is Quaker Oats. And here's why Quaker Oats is called the giant of the cereals. There's more growth, more endurance in oatmeal than any other whole grain cereal. So make your hot breakfast nourishing Quaker Oats. Quaker and Mother's Oats are the same. This is J. Michael wishing you goodbye, good luck, and good health from Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice. So long. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.